TennoCon 2021 merch design, our t-shirt, you got the pins, the lanyard, the charm, badge, it's all there. Cool box too. And that's all also on our website. You can check all of these things out, pick and choose, take a look at what you might want to get if you're into getting some Warframe merch or even the digital pack. Because in-game right now on all platforms exists two very important things. There is the ВЕРЮ TennoCon relay, which means if you bought a digital is there with everything he's ever sold, he'll be waiting for you to change your ducats in. You can get, whatever you want from ВЕРЮ. Maybe you want a prime pedestal. It's up to you. But there's also a free one. So if you can't get the digital pack, there is a Tenno Live relay. These are both on Earth. So say you're on Nintendo Switch, you can't find the relays. Make sure you're going to Earth or, well, you're on Earth, but go to the Earth area, you'll see the relays there, and these are important because at the end of the show tonight during Tenno Live, we have a fun presentation for you, a little relay event. So you're gonna wanna be in those, especially when 5 o'clock hits. For now, you can go in there, hang out with your friends, chill, talk to other Tenno, see what you're excited about for the new war that's coming later, and we'll, let you hang out in there. But make sure you're there for the Tenno Live relay event at 5 o'clock Eastern time, which is like 4 hours and 17 minutes from now. So that's when things really kick off in there. And yeah, that was my reminder for the TennoCon ВЕРЮ relay, so that's good. Oh, we have a hashtag today. Social media is a popular thing. And if you're a Warframe fan, you can use it with the hashtag Warframe. And tell people that you're watching TennoCon, Tenno Live. I can read your Twitch chat comments, let's see. They're going really fast and I don't speak Russian, but I wish I did, but thank you. How long do the relays last? They'll be up for all of the TennoCon event. So you can go in there now, or you could wait until 5 p.m. Eastern time, but they'll be up. So don't worry about that. So make sure you get in there at least for Tenno Live. And yeah, so we got our social shout-out.
Нифига, там у него материала сколько. Да, если бы я понимал, что ты говоришь, как бы так. Все понятно. Сейчас, секунду. Да-да.
Activate your Prime Gaming and level up your fashion frame. The Verve Redeemer skin will be coming soon, and it is extremely beautiful. And again,
да?
gun blades.
А Локи скрафченный будет? Да, Локи скрафченный будет, полюбаса. Как будто я сижу в чате. Так я и сижу в чате, собственно, в варфреймовском. Да, Локи собрать надо. Чтобы его забрать, это надо. А то речь что сделать, как бы. Ой. Это надо вообще капец что сделать, блин. Молодец, конечно, нарядилась, вырядилась, блин. Красавица, не спорю. Так, ага, всем здорово, как говорится, пацаны. Это видео войдет в историю, скорее всего, мне кажется. Ну, в мою, во всяком случае. Первый раз нахожусь на TennoCon, собственно, смотрю этот TennoCon, потому что интересно все-таки. Доверие, недоверие, ждем квеста, не ждем квеста, в общем. Со всеми такими же любителями Warframe, так сказать. Новый контент, новое вдохновение. Она, поскольку говорит все по-инглише, ни черта непонятно. Может, конечно, переводчик где-то найти. Будем потоково смотреть стримы чьи-то, да, потому что я сам вообще дуб-доварем. Ну, как бы, собственно, обычного человека мнение. Да и для себя, скорее всего, интересно посмотреть. Здесь будут что-то показывать. Но самый прикол будут показывать, конечно же, ночью, когда все будут спать. Но здесь же, опять-таки, у них время-то другое. Они в Канаде живут. У них 12:46. Если что, а у нас 20:46. Так что, как бы, время у нас идет разное. Но у них будет утром контент какой-то. Вот у них есть расписание, собственно. В 5 часов, 4:15. Очень большое мероприятие, как... Собственно, пусть она говорит, там пофиг вообще. Tenno Live, комьюнити, косплей, контент, панель. Welcome to TennoCon, 12 часов. Мы смотрим из-за дропа. Дроп дают, если что, не забывайте. Дроп дают. 30 минут посмотреть. Я ничего не переключал. Во всяком случае, ну, будем смотреть помимо кого-то чьи-то какие-то видео, чтобы нам поясняли, объясняли. Не знаю. Я смотрю это для себя, для дропов, для посмотреть вообще как ну, все-таки, может быть, посмотря это, собственно, вдохновение от разрабов поймаю, и будет все хорошо. Поэтому, как бы... Ну, к сожалению, у нас языковая... Тут... Нет у них субтитров, к сожалению. Хотелось бы. Клип. Настройки, режим кинотеатра. Так, у нее получается время 12:47 по ее времени. То есть 12 она начинает, 12:30 вилкома, час уже стрим за звуком. Ну, звук это прикольная часть, собственно. Звукарь будет нам показывать всякие приколы. Да, не знаю, в общем, что и как. Посмотрим, в общем. Го посмотрим чьи-то другие трансляции, помимо этой. Буду просто решу прямое включение все-таки для себя. Для... Видишь, Дом Скотт тоже какой-то стримит. Посмотрим, пофигу вообще. Ну, как бы... Так, можешь, пожалуйста, помолчать? Как его бавить-то? Ребекка молодец, собственно. Но помимо Ребекки, Меган. А, чел играет, как бы, да? Здесь надо прочитать условия, чтобы не забыть, что нужно сделать, во всяком случае. Как я это буду делать, я вообще понятия не имею. Нужно находиться, какой-то будет мини-эвент, что-то надо будет делать. Вообще не знаю. Ни черта. Поэтому, собственно... Смотрю стрим через ПК. Зашел через... и пишет, что не зашел. А, отвечаю, я просто в афиге. Посмотрим. Но у меня вроде дропы должны быть подключены, поэтому хз, не знаю. Я вроде сделал все как надо. Ну, заранее. Там вроде бы все в порядке. Не надо перепривязываться не нужно. Но опять-таки, это кому как повезет. Так, он нам ничего пока не скажет. Warframe. Ой. Ага. Прямая трансляция, соответственно. Да, мы ждем. Смотрим вместе ТенноCon. Умный чел нам будет объяснять сейчас. А, ты можешь переводить, нифига себе. Молодец. Так они еще и на... Стоп, они и на YouTube.
Oh, yes! We're gonna, you know what? Let's give away some plat too. This is a little bonus prize. It is 2020.
Чего себе, они еще и на YouTube ведут трансляцию.
Ну, короче, все инфо будет на лайв-коне, на лайв-катаконе. Всем привет, хочу Рова. Фрайм, привет. У меня на волне плюс 60 уровень.
Может мне через ноут пока смотреть стрим?
А, ну все, жди до 4 июля. Ой, августа.
Может я что-то... А то я сейчас посмотрю здесь. Собьется что-то.
Так, ну и кто там? 2021 платина. Зулус.
Ну я и так это понял.
Зулус, красавчик, вообще нормально.
Зачем я включил трансляцию прямо, непонятно.
Задания выполняю, не дают начать. Ну да. Все уже как бы закончено. Но они как говорили, что вроде как продлят немножко, но... Ну тут уже неделя осталась до конца.
488 стрим по игре Warframe. Ебать.
Ну и через 10 дней, ладно.
Одуреть. Вот это чел, вот это понимаю, вот это добивается человек. Офигеть. 488 стримов по Warframe. Офигеть, я в шоке. Я просто в офиге. Блин, ну ТенноCon, конечно, душно. Ну в плане ТенноCon душно, это что? не душно для тех, кто умеет, понимает, что она говорит. Она, эти обещания, мы будем это, мы будем то, это и так все понятно, конечно, прекрасно. Вот. Но, опять-таки. Здесь главное, надо и стрим смотреть, чтобы засчитался, а то мало ли, потому что, блин, нет, все-таки посижу пока на стриме. Что там за песня про Warframe? Хочу посмотреть. Жесть.
Delights all of you, Tenno, and thank you so much for tuning into the opening remarks. And we'll see you up with a sound panel next. But first, some fun little dojo bits to support us.
Да, мне тоже
See you
выиграл.
soon, Tenno. That this 8-year journey has brought us. I don't think anyone ever would have
Your
expected
Twitch account is
to,
linked to your Warframe account, so you can receive Twitch drops while watching TennoCon 2021.
Зрителей все больше и больше. О, Меган, сюда! Меган, сюда!
Click the sync link to link. Just make sure you're logged into the Warframe account that you want to receive the drops on. This year, for watching throughout the day, you can get a Grenier Gunblade weapon. During Tenno Live,
Скажи
watch
своему
for
чуваку, что
free
серваки
Loki
упали.
sign.
Все, увидимся, говорит.
Enjoy TennoCon 2021.
Фига Меган красивая. На стримах она вообще, конечно, на своих.
Come to my sale, come to my sale. Gotta dump this merch or I go to jail. Just kidding, friend. But seriously, I need to sell this stuff quick.
О, Дарва, нифига себе. Блин, это хорошее мероприятие, но это для америкосов и для тех, кто понимает. О, Хэрин. Да, они всех, короче, комьюнити-менеджеров позвали, ясно, понятно, понимаю. Блин, ну на что мне здесь смотреть? На что мне? Я ничего не понимаю, блядь. Жесть. Я сижу ради дропов, пацаны, как бы, вместе с вами, типа, вместе с собой. Да. О, что-то показывают. Новые комнаты тут все, окей. О, можно... объекты ставить. О, сюда. Давай посмотрим. Это интересно, кстати. Здесь хоть что-то понятно. Ой-ой-ой, какие додзё можно ставить. Ой-ой-ой, красота. Уф. Ух. Это можно открыто, как я понимаю, местности. Короче, можно додзё украшать. Да, я слышал об этом. Но это и так понятно. Интуитивно понимаем, как бы, да? Типа... Уф, Хейлен, хорошая новость. Молодец. Спасибо, что показывают, блин, хотя бы картинками. Потому что, блядь... Ой-ой-ой. Опять-таки нам все опять разжуют потом, ребята, как бы, но... Во всяком случае, я понял про додзё. Это хорошо. То есть новые комнаты всякие, можно украшения ставить, еще что-то. Красиво, интересно, замечательно. Для тех, кто любит строить, к примеру, они... Вот в Fallout есть ребята, которые любят строить всякие штуки. Свои убежища, да, как бы. Уф. Красота, не спорю. Чтобы такое сделать, конечно, это жесть. Ну да, в общем, каждая гильдия, теперь каждый клан будет очень хорошо, в общем, сможет, да, я в шоке. Не, ну красиво выглядит, красиво, не спорю. Еще бы это все как-то использовалось бы, круто. Гол-чат читать тоже. Может, там что пишут, ребята. 293 тысячи смотрят. Ну, Warframe все-таки. Вот и главная проблема, зараза, это, естественно, у них очень большие как-то, да, комнаты и все это дело, но это все никак не используется, типа, это плохо очень. Блин, жалко, я не могу два стрима одновременно смотреть. Будем картинками, че. Как бы, пацаны. Гол посмотрим поближе. Ладно, пофигу. Будем сами додумывать, плевать. Блин, почему у нас вот ребята русские не устраивают такие вещи? То есть, блин, офигеть, ребята молодцы. То есть, Warframe все-таки относится к своему детищу, в общем, с уважением. А, конкурс Додзё был, насколько я помню. Да, это конкурс Додзё. Я думал, добавили. Лол. Я только сейчас об этом понял. Конкурс Додзё был же, точно. Я-то думал, добавлять можно было. Это уже можно сделать, это уже люди сделали. То есть, да, я только сейчас об этом понял. Да. Люди, конечно, жесткие. Ну шо, говно? Чё говно? Сергей, все на инглише, ни хера непонятно. Не, ну, собственно, можно интуитивно догадаться, что и что. Поэтому, как бы... Китайцы сделали это? Блин, да, я не спорю. Китайцы по-любому такие вещи делают. Короче, она проводила, как я понял, конкурс Додзё. И ребята вот это все вот это сделали сами. То есть, как вот эти помещения. Короче, аналог как в Майнкрафте, собственно, поэтому... Но мы сидим ради дропов, как бы. Ну, может быть, что-то интересное покажет, что мы с вами увидим. Новая война, конечно же, квест. Уф, ждем. Ну, хрена мы его пока... О, мега здорово. Покажут нам, конечно, это все еще не скоро. Даже придется... Ну, блин, главное забрать Warframe. Но это будет ночью, зараза. А там интуитивно что-то нужно будет делать. Да я не помню, как там дроп забирать. Он объясняет, как забрать дроп, блять, а я не понимаю, ни черта. Старший общественный менеджер, да. Да, она, кстати, комьюнити менеджер, если что. Ну, Меган молодец в этом плане, она очень давно работает. Уйди. Что там опять, блядь? Так, мы послушаем пока того чувака, что он скажет. Потому что он понимает, он шарит.
Да. WarframeTennoCon/user. Twitch, клик, клинк. Что, может музыкальную паузу зажах? Ух ты, лянь какой, ля. Аля какой, Экскалибур. Ой, я бы в таком скине побегал бы. Ля, сколько полигонов.
А, ну у них все по расписанию. Сейчас будет звукарь, короче, как я помню, звуки какие-то добавлять. Так, я не понимаю, я не помню, что там надо сделать.
Да я ж не против.
Что там надо сделать? Там все объясняют, но... Стоп, надо как-то на инфу нарыть насчет этого. Там как-то лут, надо собирать что-то делать.
Змейка, ее крутишься с треугольничком. Шарики там создавали. Никто войти в игру не может. Сеть недоступна, сеть. Вы что там творите-то, демоны-то?
Да почему у нас в России такое не делают? То есть вот опять алоды какие-нибудь сделали бы тоже какие-нибудь вещи, блин, было бы круто. Конечно.
Да.
Встречи.
Объясни мне, приз. По-моему, ВК какая-то инфа должна быть. У Silent Машика, я в него верю, типа я всегда его новости смотрю, поэтому...
Вот кто Эру озвучивает.
It's lovely to be working with a team at DE again.
У него с задержкой стрим вообще капец. В баре TennoCon нет редкого заряженного патронника.
Все понятно с тобой. Так.
Если вы не покупали набор, у вас будет доступ к реле TennoCon без бар. Для получения брони и скина меча можно находиться в любом из этих реле, начиная с полуночи по МСК. Так, а меня?
Warframe настолько мертвая непопулярная игра, что ложится на ногу отходящих людей. Да. А сколько сейчас? 300 тысяч зрителей. Интересно, сколько из них русских? Ну, 1050, наверное, думаю, есть.
Бля, я не могу одновременно стримы смотреть, два стрима одновременно, поэтому пошел нафиг.
Hi, Tenno. How are you?
О, господи. Можно, пожалуйста, субтитры сделать? Паша, я ничего не понимаю. Я ничего не понимаю. Поучите, наблюдая окончание 18 июля. Активируйте дропс для сообщества. Смотрите трансляцию 30 минут и получите награду. Осталось всего 37%. О, кстати, я почти... Ладно, придется потерпеть. Вот. Ой, я 63% я уже посмотрел. Все, я понял, окей. Так кто все, чё, кто? А, мне показывают актеров озвучки, лоу. Локи Прайм, что ли, он говно. Не, Локи Прайм это очень старый Warframe, как бы. Локи Прайм на халяву дают, да. Локи Прайм на халяву дают. Эх. Но надо быть ночью, понимаешь? Дают набор брони, дают нового прайма, ну какого нового? Локи Прайма. Дают, значит... А я не знал, что она озвучила. Сейчас 2 секунды, прям буквально. Понятно. Какое шоу мы придумали, молодцы.
Yes, yes, we can hear you. We can hear you. Just go ahead and say hi. Mighty Paul, grant me your insights into digital networking. Mr. Anyo, did you want to say anything?
What? Oh, yes, you. I need another drink, please. And remember, I like the blue umbrellas.
Okay, Rictus. Anything you want to add? That's actually really nice. Thank you. Yeah, I agree. Bye, everybody.
I need another daiquiri.
Go away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the TennoCon 2021 Sounds of Warframe panel. For the next little while, we are joined from, all over the world, maybe all over London, who knows, we'll find out, by some very special guests to talk about the sounds of Warframe. This means things from the game design sounds to putting quests together, and of course the music of Warframe. So all this and more with some special sneak peeks behind the scenes will be covered here, and we're just gonna get started. So I am very, very honored to be joined by 3 wonderful guests today, and I will be hosting it. My name is Rebecca Ford, and I, work on Warframe, do some voice here and there, but I get the pleasure of working with these 3 talented individuals. Why don't we start off with you, George?
Hi, I'm George Spanos. I'm the audio director on Warframe.
Hi, I'm Eric, and I'm a sound designer on Warframe.
And last but not least, from the Backlit Enterprise.
I'm Keith Power, and I've written some of the music for Warframe.
Yes, indeed, and we'll be talking about that, indeed.
Most of the music. A lot of the music.
Yeah, it's interesting, George. You never put my songs in that I write. What's with that, George?
Well, I'm waiting. The problem is your rate is just really high, and I haven't found a good way to tell you, but yeah, we can't afford you, man.
You can't afford me. Oh, okay. Well, that's a first, but I probably shouldn't put that in.
О, Ребекка, о, Георгий. Мухи всякие здесь летают. Блин, как мне смотреть стрим, чтобы я понимал, о чем идет речь одновременно? Или шо, или как? Непонятно, нифига. Блин, плохо очень, что нет субтитров. Почему канадцы не додумались, что будут их русскоязычные ребята смотреть? Хотя это наша проблема, опять-таки, хочешь понимать, что говорят. Я не могу 2 стрима одновременно смотреть, поэтому как бы... Вот. Но сейчас 30 минут посмотрим, а там уже можно будет... Я как понимаю, по расписанию у них стрим сейчас с актерами, не актерами, короче, что меня стикты. С актерами озвучки, либо, звуковиками, короче. Я не знаю, как правильно сказать, звукорежиссерами, не знаю, еще что-то. Поэтому... О, музыку покажут. Social Music, я понял. Давай. Ты должен через сайт Warframe зайти? Нет, я ничего не должен, Сергей. У меня все привязано, если что. Иначе бы я не смог уже 60% сделать, выполнить этот дроп на 60%, так что не надо. Я уже все сделал давно до этого. Это уже давно фишка в плане того, что ты смотришь стрим, и тебе награды за какие-то... Это на Твиче очень популярно, то есть поэтому даже если ты не популярный чел, как бы, и у тебя есть такая возможность подключить дроп, и к себе будут люди заходить и смотреть твой стрим, поэтому на Ютубе такого нету. Поэтому как-то насчет Twitch... Twitch в этом плане гораздо лояльнее, конечно. Где проценты? Там были проценты, я сейчас не буду смотреть. Сейчас подождем уже до конца, и все, и 100% будет. Опять мухи летают. Но, во всяком случае, TennoCon это как... Ну, для Warframe это очень важно. То есть здесь все обговаривают, новые планы, как что. Это как, я не знаю, это как... Блин, что сравнить? Какой-нибудь... Стримфест, я не знаю, еще что-то такое. Только это в плане Warframe устраивает такие вещи. То есть это очень круто для них, то есть для фанатов, для всех. Когда ты знаешь в своей любимой игре, чуть больше, типа. То есть в этом плане они относятся как-то с душой, несмотря на что, не на что. Вот, поэтому... Я нажал случайно что-то, блядь. Ого, посмотрим проценты, получается.
And you know,
so far, yeah.
Speaking of your imminent return to the office, whenever it's safe to do so, I walked into the building today and I noticed the entire back of the building.
Значит, подключение обязательно подключено. На странице инвентаря Drops. 83% уже. Вот. Опять эта муха долбаная. Почему постоянно мухи эти заколебали? Я же уже, блядь, сейчас ударил. Я, естественно, не попал, ее сложно замочить тапочкой. В общем, в этом плане, конечно, мы ждем, когда нам будут показывать, собственно, сам этот квест. Опять же, сейчас был прикол в том, что если у тебя было 700 рублей, ты мог купить набор за 600 с чем-то рублей, и у тебя есть возможность, пока идет, точнее, до 24-го, по-моему, числа, ну, в общем, там какое-то время тебе дается, чтобы ты мог прийти к барычу, точнее, это торговец бездны, который раз в 2 недели, или каждую неделю он приезжает, и выкупить все его, то есть все, что он привозил когда-то, да, то есть год назад он что-то привозил, и это будет доступно, и ты смог бы сейчас купить вот это вот за 600 рублей, у тебя была бы возможность, доступ. То есть если мне сейчас зайти в игру туда, у меня не будет барыча, типа, а у всех, кто заплатил деньги, короче, вложился, собственно, задонатил, короче, то да, у них есть возможность купить лут, жесткий, конечно, для тех, кто украшает что-то, да, свой корабль, или какие-то собирает моды, оружие прокачивает, да, арсенал свой там, да. То есть у них есть возможность, как бы, сейчас купить все это, и будет все хорошо. У нас такой возможности нету, к сожалению. То есть, как бы, ну, первый раз, собственно, сижу, разбираю, прямо именно смотрю TennoCon, да, обычно я только смотрел новости, как бы, да, потому что ни черта не понятно, но здесь показывают какие-то моменты из игры, будут показывать, поэтому я жду, посмотрю, что и как. Ну, Локи, конечно, такой, инвизер, короче, самый первый Warframe, один из самых первых, он очень стар, как бы, но Prime-версия, не знаю, как ее сейчас выбить, никак. Поэтому, как бы, тем более, тебе он дается уже, то есть, не надо покупать под него слот, он уже готовый. Ну, это, пиздец. Халява, короче. Это все. Вот. Опять этих всех же я уже, как бы, встречал, и Ребекку, и Меган, и этих, они ведут стримы, также на канале Warframe'овском, да. Как бы, ну, молодцы, то есть люди вот и дышат, живут этой игрой, собственно. Вот. Но, к сожалению, из-за языкового барьера я ни черта не понимаю. Нету здесь субтитров, ничего нет, как бы. Может быть, есть субтитры, нет? Да нет, вряд ли. Никто не станет этим заниматься, как бы. А я не могу смотреть стрим одновременно, еще где-то стрим, чтобы понимать, о чем он говорит, собственно. То есть, хотя я могу через телефон, по идее. Ну, а можно... Стоп. Кажется, я придумал. Так. Где моя прямая трансляция? Чат. Я же могу вынести чат отдельно. Откроем чат. Сейчас я попробую. Сломаю всю систему, короче, как говорится. Чтобы я смотрел, что ты читаешь, как бы.
Famous for your brief appearance with the Brussels sprouts, and I'm just curious what garden has been pillaged for sounds this year.
Well, of course, Brussels sprouts are my go-to whenever I design.
О, это я. Да, это себя видишь.
Sometimes, yeah, I've got to use lettuce.
Я могу вот так, конечно, стянуть. Какой смысл это вообще? О, я придумал. Так, а здесь на телефоне я смогу уже спокойно как-то взаимодействовать и читать одновременно чат. И, может быть, я найду сейчас человека, который, чтобы я понимал, о чем речь ведет. Кто? То. Надеюсь, я. Здесь желательно, который шарит, понимает английский, как бы, что происходит, соответственно. О, я заработал дроп. Сюда, просто сюда. Ганбойт. Ганбойт, сюда. Поделиться. Все, я получил дроп. Ну, ганбойт, конечно, я не знаю, такое себе. Я смотрю ТенноCon, да, я понял. Я тоже смотрю ТенноCon, чел. Ой-ой-ой. Показывает звуки, как этих питомца. А как озвучивали вот этих питомцев сестер Парваса. Вот это вот... Звуки. Да. Короче, роботизированные собаки вот эти вот. У сестер Парваса есть такие. Ты их видел на картинке уже, как бы.
Different pitch shifting, delay, and some EQ and compression to control it all. Let's take a look at another idle growl session. In this case, we can see we've used a simple recording of a dog growling with a little bit more automation this time and some tremolo on the tail. Here it is before processing.
Ты еще не знаешь, как это в игре звучит классно, наверное.
And after.
Ну да. Как ты думаешь, звуки создаются?
I hope you enjoyed this look into how we created some of the vocals for the Hound Pet in Warframe. Thanks for watching.
Вот эти, видишь, на картинке у него, на арт у него. Вот они, вот видишь? Вот они. Вот это новые прислужники, так сказать, сестер Парваса. Она актер озвучки, я понимаю.
We are going to start here in Reaper, where we've got some raw audio files from our voice actors. We have 4 different excerpts of transmissions here. These are all for the same event in game, and each one of these is done by a different voice actor. When a sister spawns in the game, the engine will randomly choose a set of dialogue from one of these 4 actors, and that will be your sister's voice or her personality for the duration of your time together, which makes each sister of Parvos you encounter feel a little bit more unique. Let's take a listen.
So you can slap. I slap harder.
Oh, I learned to take a hit long before I met you.
You killed a
Вот такой голос у сестер.
Did you ever sit alone in the office with a plasmic hole punch?
You might notice here that these files are actually pretty quiet, and also that the volume really varies even in the span of one tape. We're gonna do a little processing to make these sound nice and even, and to make sure these transmissions are loud enough.
Она просто записала эти голоса, она сейчас будет обрабатывать. Да, все, понял.
Let's take a look at Sister B over here. So, Sister B's signal chain here is consisting of a little bit of EQ, a little bit of light compression just to smooth out those highs and
Вот как это создает, нам показывает, как создаются голоса.
A little bit of limiting to bring that signal up, just so it's loud enough.
Прикинь, вдруг в Володах так бы сделали такие стримы, было бы круто, конечно.
Let's take a listen to the processed file.
Не забили бы на игру.
Oh, I learned to take a hit long before I
как она
met you.
работает.
So there is one last step to putting these sisters into the Warframe.
Всем так интересно. Ну, для кого-то интересно, для кого-то интересно. Во всяком случае, ты узнаешь об этой игре чуть больше. Как изнутри она, что происходит. Это тоже своего рода труд, который ты не видишь, как бы. Который ты уже видишь в финале. А кто это все делает, пишет, все это крутит, все эти ползунки делает, басы, не басы, обрабатывает, все эти звуки делает. То есть, блин, это тоже труд еще какой.
So every time you encounter a new sister, the game engine will set different parameters for
такая жесть происходит, чтобы сделать квест, не квест, чтобы все это было. Да.
Oh, I learned to take a hit long before I met you.
Да, вот.
Learned how to give one.
Он показывает обработку.
Вот
я еще сестер еще как бы вот этого сестра как бы там справа.
Or you could get a sister that sounds like this.
Did you ever sit alone in the office with a plasmic hole punch?
То есть она один актер озвучки сделала столько типа голосов, чтобы, короче, круто. Но я еще с сестрой пока не как бы еще пока не встречался. Я лично смотрю. Нет, я CSGO не смотрю, Андрей, поэтому как бы удачного просмотра тоже. Нет, я смотрю то, во что играю, собственно. Я в CSGO не играю, поэтому. А тем не менее, дроп-то сюда. Только как я буду вот, блин, не знаю, как сделать.
What's your favorite synthesizer, Eric?
Ну, я думаю, как-то получится.
Well, I'm going to name the ones that I have, but my most recent acquisition is the Moog Grandmother. Enjoying that because it's sort of a throwback to the Model D, which is obviously a classic. So.
Did we get to see the Moog Grandmother in that video?
Теперь ждем чела с тряпкой, который вытрет пиво Сережу.
I know. I'll have to
Понял.
hold it up and do like a.
Здесь будут показывать скоро игровые механики. Вот интересно. Мне кажется, что ты его продолбил, потому что сайт Warframe не зашел. Я жду новый квест, новая история, цепочка, чтобы все продвинулось, чтобы все стало, чтобы новая война, чтобы Лотос в конечном итоге мы уже все решили, чтобы она обратно вернулась, чтобы появлялась у нас в правом нижнем углу, как обычно, своим голосом говорила, куда нам идти, чтобы наша, так сказать, космическая мама, так сказать, вернулась обратно, и все было хорошо. Спасибо. Стрим пролагал. Пиздец, все. Все сдохло. Нет. Он, кстати, я вижу сообщение. Иногда дропнулся сервак. Twitch дропсы, то они варфреймовская. Это не Warface, где все привязано к сайту. Но чат закрой, чтобы не лагало. Не, я хочу сообщение читать. Не может лагать. Я только что. Надо просто сделать этот источник автоматически. Нет, там иногда сообщения проскакивают хорошие. Я пытаюсь зацепиться за что-то, понимаешь? Не может быть зачета лагать. Не может. Плевать. Будем сидеть лагать. Я верю тебе, Андрей. Я тебе верю. Сегодня видел стрим Михи, кстати, пока он разговаривает, этот чувак. Ничего не показывает. Стримил черепашку, он там, по-моему, да? Посмотрел немного. Окей, давай свернем. Да нет, это... Фига, как время быстро идет, у них уже час 21.
So that's a cool thing that happens too. So yeah, you're never tied into one road.
So at what point, and we can be,
Да
as
еще
honest
и
as
Vice
we need
City
to
была
here,
и
'cause this is the panel, that's why
CS1.6.
people are here. At what point in Call of the Tempest
У него вообще
did
шиза.
VC
Vice City была и
get
CS
added?
1.6.
Because I don't think that was in the original script. What was that, Keith? Sorry?
Блин, просто здесь у меня Wi-Fi, можно отключить что-то. Давай здесь Wi-Fi отключу на телефоне.
You know, I think another thing for me that's always important is if you can write music that relates to the story in a fundamental way. I think it's important.
Сижу, как будто думаю, что понимаешь, что там говорят.
If you can develop a character's narrative and you can help the
Короче, Георг фигни не скажет, как говорится, все нормально. Да. Да, у Михи был стрим, точнее он должен был быть 24 часа стрим должен у него был быть. Я так и не понял, продержался он 24 часа, во что он там играл, я не понимаю, почему он такие игры странные очень выбирает. Я, конечно, я не понимаю немножко. Слегка. Не понимаю вообще. То есть какие-то черепашки, пираты, не знаю, кто играет, как бы, пофигу вообще, как-то нет, все, стоп. Как бы я, может быть, нет, мне надо учиться, нет, никакого хейта, короче, все нормально. Зашибись, игры прекрасные, великолепные. Он захотел поиграть, поиграл, все, плевать, нормально. Крутые игры, вообще замечательно. Не надо. Ага, шутки. Но Ребекку, во всяком случае, когда я смотрел трансляции, вот Меган, Ребекку и Хелен, да, часто очень видел. Вот этих чуваков я вообще не знаю. Георга этого я видел пару раз. Ну, он звукарь, короче, как бы. Аудиодиректор, если что, мы сами понимаем. Вот. Ну, во всяком случае, Twitch-дропы. Так-то. О, музон показывают. А, понял. Я проходил квест под эту музыку, кстати, если кто помнит. А если и под стрим, если в старые игры играть, то в соло. А, нам показывают, как музыка отписалась, да? Там прикольная обработка была, кстати. Ну ладно, но квест такой, если честно. Если под стрим и под стрим, то у тебя уже должно быть. Ну да. Ну, играть для себя, пофигу. Я сейчас тоже в последнее время подумал, типа, я же сам сижу, играю, какая разница. Можно и врубить, пофигу. Конечно, там на музон врубают. Да, гол послушаем чутка. Надеюсь, авторские права не дадут. Это у китайцев. Я просто китайской смолни не слышал. Японский. И в русском тоже. Музыка прикольная, я не спорю, конечно. Ну, квест такой себе, честно сказать, на севогодный Warframe. Какая на трубе. Там у другого стримера кот вот это головой когда делает. Это чистяк. Напоминаю, знаешь что, когда Джайна про этот, как ее пела. Сам знаешь что. Да, Лики войны, да. Такого чувака борода. Не, песня прикольная. Кстати, надо в русской озвучке ее послушать. Мо-мо-мо, нифига у нее ник. Хрен прочитаешь. Эх, вот у нас почему-то у русских нет таких игр. А нас танки, белорусы. Ну, блин, не знаю, короче, пофигу. У нас почему вот таких нет вещей, блин? Создали бы крутую игру какую-нибудь, проводили бы всякие тоже ТенноКоны. Вот, супер кул, согласен, не поспоришь, конечно, тут. Надо было в русской озвучке, я не знал, что она в русской озвучке вышла. Ну, Ребекка в ахере, короче, во всяком случае.
Man, it's so cool to hear different languages in it too. It's really cool.
Yeah, so did you ever think, Keith, that this little shanty would have such a far reach?
На Твиче, кстати, попробовал стримить на Твиче. Офигеть, типа, в плане качества гораздо лучше и меньше битрейда. То есть для тех, кто, не знаю, странно очень. Фигня, сам удивился очень. Меньше битрейда жрет. Даже ограничения накидывает. То, что у меня там 10 тысяч я поставлю, он только 6 возьмет, типа. Странно, короче, максимально. И как-то... Ну, у них минус то, что видео не сохраняет. Ну, сохраняется 14 дней, по-моему. Вот. Ну, прикольно. Прикольно все оно сделано. Twitch как-то в этом плане, вот YouTube, пусть если разовьется, типа, какое-то развитие у него будет, как у Твича, то будет все нормально. Пока, конечно, Twitch поприкольнее площадка. Но для стримеров, опять-таки, ну, для стримеров. А так, в принципе, что на Твиче, что на Ютубе, если они смотрят, тебе нигде не посмотреть. Лол. Как говорится, Advance RP, 2 зрителя, всем привет, если что. Ну еще плевать, плевать. Играешь в свое удовольствие, как бы. Я уже давно это понял, типа, так что играй спокойно в КС-очку, там 1.6. И все, и да, как бы вечером подрубил, поиграл. Все. Поговорил, дикцию поразвивал, так сказать. Блин, я не высижу, наверное, все-таки. Да, Локи, Прайм. Так, надо... Стоп, надо расписание не... Это как бы... Верните обратно. Как сделать-то? Верните обратно. Как сделать? А, вот выйти из режима кинотеатра. Там кто-то пытается в игру зайти. Надо было в игру зайти, кстати, до ТенноКона, поэтому как бы... Ну все, у меня телефон с ума сходит.
It's crazy too, because you guys, if I recall correctly, did a couple of demos, and you know, it's interesting to hear demos and stuff as well, and hear where it comes to. It's
Караоке батл. Ну блин, зато это новая война, это новый квест, основной. Наконец-то, блять, они его сделали. Сколько они его делали? Да вот вообще, наконец-то. Они его так долго, даже не помню сколько. Ну, в общем, какой-то есть там Дувири какая-то штука. Ее очень долго делают, поэтому как бы... Так, у них сейчас время, получается, 1:30. У них сейчас идет как раз вот короче, звуковой стрим, так сказать, с звукарями. Дальше у них будет лайв какой-то. А, вопрос-ответы, как я понимаю, Q&A и вот это вот. Потом арт стрим. Потом в 4:15 у них будет комьюнити косплей контент, и потом Tenno Live 5 утра, ну, по канадскому, соответственно. Блять. И мне надо быть в сети, получается, тогда, когда начнется... Пока сниму, пожалуй, у меня телефон сейчас с ума сойдет, задолбал. Я надеюсь, что покажут какие-то вещи интересные. Ну а что, все равно бы сейчас сидел, смотрел все это, поэтому мало ли, может, что интересного напишите. Ура, стрим с вебкой. Так, нет, мне надо... Я могу, в принципе, попробовать... Нет, я не могу. Так, где этот дроп, вся фигня? Байда, перезагружу, пожалуй. Блин, вот чел там чипсы кушает, я тоже хочу. Трофей Прайм.
And you know, I really, I mean,
Где там дропсы, я не
this was
помню.
just pure hype for all of us to see the reactions to it. So we're just so grateful that we got to put out a song like that.
Так, нужно. Прогресс достижения 18:00. 18 июля. Плюс 3 часа.
Yeah, definitely. We've got so much material. I mean, when did we release the first one? It's probably, what, 5 years ago now or something. So we've got a ton of music that's...
Вот я смотрел стримы по, кстати, по этому, как ее, по World of Warships тоже какие-то приколы. Twitch контейнер. Вот он, сюда просто. Gunblade, халявный. Вот так бы сидел, сейчас выбивал, а это на халяву. То есть я заработал честным трудом, сидел, смотрел. Octavia Prime, понял.
Fully scored, fully sound designed Prime videos, and you know,
what
a way to do 2021. And I would like to talk to each of you about bringing these trailers back, because a lot of it, you know, you got to capture the.
Кстати, Octavia Prime нету Prime видео до сих пор. Интересно ради, если что.
It's all back, and why don't you talk to us a little bit about that process? I'll start with, let's just go right to Keith about scoring.
Кстати, прикольно было бы, если в Octavia добавили какие-то, ну, фишки. У каждого Prime Warframe есть своя фишка. Эффекты, еще что-то. Короче, что-то они сейчас обещают, соответственно, опять.
And that's exciting and scary, but with the 2 trailers that we did recently, I think.
Да, согласен со стримом, который у меня на телефоне сейчас. Это важный момент для Warframe, поэтому как бы придется как бы вместе с ним идем в историю. Буду говорить, что я сидел, смотрел 17 числа 7 месяца 21 года. Сидел, смотрел этот стрим, смотрел на гетовые аудиодиректоры, собственно, и потом я офигел, был в ахе, офигел полнейшем, просто очень удивление большое, огроменное было. Вот. А так, по идее, контент. Вот если ты шаришь, знаешь английский, по идее, ты можешь сидеть это, типа писать «перевожу», и будешь говорить, он говорит «ля-ля-ля-ля-ля». То есть все, плюс аудиторию. Вот. А так, ну пофигу, имеем, что имеем. Будем смотреть, будем как, собственно, сами додумывать, что там и как, когда будут показывать геймплей моменты, но геймплей моменты еще не скоро. Вот. Ну хотя лайф вот этот вот, ну от этого вопроса, возможно, там что-то будет. Ну, Google, мне интересно, я хочу послушать песню в озвучке. Сестры Парваса, музыка. Русская. Руссконародная. 2 месяца назад. 2 месяца назад? Серьезно? Как истинные задроты Варф, мы не могли пойти мимо. Стиль явно Шанти, а Шанти мы не любим. А те комментарии? Есть комментарии вообще? Ремастер-версия. Приятно удивлен, шикарно спели.
But it's also fun. I don't know. I mean, Erica, how do you feel about working on something linear like a cinematic?
Град вас на стриме показали.
It's a different experience, right?
Да.
Absolutely, yeah. Working on a game, you're sort of always creating an audio universe and something that you can live in. Working on a trailer is more like creating a play.
Даже мобильное приложение легло. Нифига там все легло, все сервера. Но сейчас ребята все дуром пошли, наверное, заплатили 700 рублей. И, наверное, сейчас фармят, пытаются у Барыча вытаскивать лут, который годами он привозил просто. Блин, я не знал, что будет TennoCon так скоро. Надо было тоже попотеть. Надо было тоже попотеть, конечно. Сейчас бы мог такие вещи, просто такие оружки там, уф, сюда. Я где-то спустя минут 15 сначала TennoCon вроде сидел, встретил Сакон случайно, но я обрадовался. Скон у нас маловат, активный. А тут на рандоме челики зашел, тут и тут же сели.
this is news to me, so we probably will. But yeah, I mean, I think right now it's all things new war. But yeah, we'll carve out some time to work on a Prime trailer, I'm sure. You know, as we always.
Интересно, как они на русском успели?
Прямо в бездну идет весь честной народ с колыбели и вперед. Мы к солнцу плывем, а когда дойдем, то в холодной глубине уснем. Сестры на глубине, держим курс туда, где ветра нет. Да связаны мы до глубины, спать будем на холодном дне. Спать будем на холодном дне. Наш парусный флот умельца вперед погрузили, держи ровней. Хочешь разбогатей или развлекай чертей, когда будешь на холодном дне. Сестры на глубине, держим курс туда, где ветра нет. Да связаны мы до глубины, спать будем на холодном дне. Спать будем на холодном дне. Есть один господин, самим чертом одержим и с рукою в золотом огне. В силах он тебя сломить, дать надежду и убить, и оставить на холодном дне. Сестры на глубине, держим курс туда, где ветра нет. Да связаны мы до глубины, спать будем на холодном дне. Спать будем на холодном дне. Честны и мудры, когда смерть придет ко мне. Вы укройте мой скелет покрывалом из монет и оставьте на холодном дне. Оставьте на холодном дне. Сестры на глубине, держим курс туда, где ветра нет. Да связаны мы до глубины, спать будем на холодном. Сестры на глубине, держим курс туда, где ветра нет. Да связаны мы до глубины, спать будем на холодном дне. Спать будем на холодном дне. Спать будем на холодном дне. Наш путь среди туч осветит солнце луч, неизведанное везде. Поцелуй и рассвет, ветер скроет наш след. Судьба нас встретит на холодном дне. В холодной глубине уснем.
А, так лол, типа. Не, ну мурашки, типа, вообще офигенно. Офигенно, не поспоришь. Че там? Опа, новые звуки какие-то. ЕРЛ, я понял, показывают. Звуки ЕРЛ. Так вот, бас-буст от серии. Музыка была. А, это звуки ЕРЛ показывают. Понятно. Я думаю, что-то где басы, типа, лол. Вот она, оказывается.
На глубине, держим курс туда, где
но
ветра нет.
Вот эта тема.
Связаны мы до глубины, спать будем
Во-во-во.
на холодном дне. Спать будем на холодном дне.
Уф, вот это прикольно. Вот. Не, ну топ. Песня прикольная. Типа я просто не ожидал маленько чутка. Что она будет на русском. Надо ее как-то добавить. Найти в ВК, что ли? Ну, это и тот... Короче, и так понятно, что это звуки ERL он делает. Так, все, обратно. Это же звукари, пацаны, как бы делают. Вот так вот все записывается. Вот это водопадики. Понимаешь, да? Вот они все водопадики так записываются. Не, конечно, вот в плане звуковом, конечно, они очень запарываются, не поспоришь вообще. Честно. Пойти! Звук водопада записать. Понимаешь, да? Не каждый такая студия, ну, то есть не каждый пойдет чел как бы такими вещами заниматься. Пуховик на микрофоне, ну да. Поп-фильтр. Такой мягкий, наверное. Вот этих всех сверчков, блин. Да, вот это вот показывает нам действительно работу, как это все, что ты слышишь в игре. У нас в Дадзё, кстати, такая комната есть, где вот эти вот ручейки, птички поют. Прикинул, чел. Ну, я бы тоже по таким, конечно. Ладно. Нет, ну прикольно. Хорошая природа. Песня, кстати, вообще. Я вот благодаря стриму TennoCon уже не зря посмотрел. Дроп получил, музыку прикольную нашел. Сейчас зашибись. Я еще не знал, что и на русском она сделана была. Вообще. Тьфу-тьфу-тьфу.
First hands-on look at all things new war. But before we, wrap things up today, that comes with the quests of Warframe, and that's the music that takes us through them. And I think...
Ну, кстати, вот время, как я ожидал, да? Интересно, сколько ему платят за это? Не знаю. Ну, кстати, время очень быстро бежит. Я думал, вообще очень медленно будет. Тут просто и все. Скоро уже до Локи дойдем. Короче, главное как-то... Когда начнется, как я понимаю, набор брони заработать еще. Набор брони, скин для меча. Для бесплатных работяг, так сказать. Вот. Зайти в игру надо как-то не забыть. Только это... Блин, я не знаю, как я это сделаю. Типа зайти в игру и сидеть просто. Так, пацаны, как я понимаю, на стриме пытаются зайти в игру. Зачем? По фортуне жертве. Надо ли? Ну, новая обновка сегодня вряд ли будет. Зато я... Вот, блин, зараза. Мне завтра на работу. Эх, а там будет как раз обновка. Значит, наверное, в ночь. Может быть. Новую войну покажет. Ну, короче, чувак пытается зайти, у него не получается, и у многих не получается, поэтому нет. Пока сидим, смотрим. Так вот, чувак, вот 3 монитора, прикинь, сидит такой. Блин, я надеюсь, типа, доделают квест, точнее, по-любому они его сделают. И это как бы... изменится что-то. То есть это основа, типа вот. Это все второстепенный квест, а есть основной квест. То есть я надеюсь, что основной квест как раз-таки будет хорошим. Не зря они так долго его делали. Но они довольно-таки продолжительное время делали. Там, не знаю, год, не год. Может, даже больше. Поэтому хз. Это вот как обычно. Показывают сначала такое для разогрева. Все ближе, ближе. Но, блин, зараза, они в ночь все будут показывать. Если бы я, конечно, не надо было. Я бы, наверное, попытался бы досидеть. Интересно посмотреть первым на геймплейные моменты, конечно, какие-то в игре самые. 46 минут. Эх. Я ни хрена не понимаю, чел, как бы. Ты там... Он такой, типа... Он такой, знаешь, такой... Максимально вот это... У него язык подвязанный, такой... Жестикуляция. Молодец. Красноречие прокачан. О, новая на музыку покажут. Давай, заводи. Вот, новая война, кстати. Да, в этот год.
So what you just heard, you'll actually see in context tonight during Tenno Live, but it's a very...
Ну, я понял. То есть уже квест уже знаем, уже точно будет, полюбасу уже все. Чудо. Новая война, короче. Насколько я знаю, там вся завязка в том, что владеющий разум, надеюсь, ты, Сергей, видел, по-моему, такие летающие штуки. Не знаю, как объяснить. Они нашли способ, как они, типа, там, короче, как бы, как объяснить бы полегче. Короче, они нашли способ проникнуть в эти миры, так сказать. Вот. Вот. То есть до этого они не могли этого сделать, сейчас они могут это сделать, типа, как-то. Все, поэтому новая война. Они вторгаются, начинают. Чертила босса. Да, которые летающие такие. Которые у него сопротивление ко всему урону. Чем бы ты их ни бил, у них сопротивление будет. С ними сложно бороться. Если получится, можно даже... Нет, я не буду переживать. Обещать ничего, поэтому пофигу. Посмотрим, что там за стрим дальше будет у них через 11 минут. Потому что вопросы могут быть хз. Дроп, потому что никакого больше не будет пока что. Дроп будет ближе к 5 утра. Но у нас это будет, получается... 5, 4, 3. 3 ночи. Это обещание или уже выходит? Уже выходит, конечно. Наверное. Я просто до конца еще... Я сам не понимаю, Сергей. Но музыку-то уже показывает, значит, уже будет. Тут лагает пиздец, понимаю. Не, новую войну должны добавить вот-вот, мне кажется. После ТенноКона, а ТенноКон пройдет... Блин, я не помню просто вот сам ТенноКон, что из себя представляет, типа. Вот. Типа это, ну, имеется в виду мероприятие, которое несколько дней как бы празднуется, ведется или нет, или за один день они как бы, у них есть программа. По-моему, ТенноКон это все-таки за один раз они.
We did like some one-off lines for Orphix Venom, but other than that, I think the last true lines were the Ropalolis.
Ну, во всяком случае.
Jovian Conquer. That was 2019, and I guess there were some other pieces here and there, but it's definitely been a while. So.
Зато эти разрабы, вот, да, все эти комьюнити-менеджеры и так далее, они сами играют же в эту игру, как в Геншине. То есть это уже поина успеха. Если им самим нравится то, что они делают, собственно, мне просто говорили, когда я играл в Геншин, сидел. чел захотел вот то. Он говорит, разрабы сами играют часто очень в игру, поэтому как бы тьфу-тьфу-тьфу. То есть в Warframe также делают. Ну, то есть это две такие студии, они прощаются, понятно. Ну, конечно, реклама. Экскалибур, T-шорт. Короче, продают маечки, соответственно. О, Меган, здорово опять. Фига она будет накрашена. Обычно на стримах вообще жесть, конечно, страшная. Вот. Ну, сейчас все сервера легли. Ты представь, что это на Аризоне сервер открыли. Меган напоминает о том, чтобы мы подключили, то есть на аккаунте двойную вот эту фигню, чтобы дропы получать. Нифига она накрашена, блин, в шоке. Типа, ну я уже получил эту фигню. Вот, Локи Прайм. Ждем, как бы говорится. 30 минут нам посмотреть стрима. Вот. И набор брони. Но меня интересует набор брони и для меча там. Вот этот набор брони. Вот, очень крутой. Танукай армор сет. Мне отличники нравятся у него, не знаю. Но будет каждый второй опять-таки заходить в нем.
We are now entering the dojo of PlayStation Clan Blood of the Shadow Dragons. We have arrived at late
конкурс на доджо, гол посмотрим чутка. Ну, представь, вот это люди. Это люди сами строили. То есть ты у нас в клане, по идее, можешь по ресурсам вот это все сам построить. Вот это такое доджо сделать, чтобы у нас типа в клане вот такое место было. Представь. То есть я не знаю, как это вообще делается. Ну, охренеть можно. То есть это люди, вот эти все ступеньки, это все 5, вот это не все, ну, короче, в шоке, в афиге, честно сказать. Я говорю, такая система я только видел в Fallout, New Vegas, вот что. Или 4-м Fallout, где убежище нужно свое строить, обустраивать. Вот в Warframe такие вещи тоже можно делать. Для клана, то есть очень круто. Вот. Во всяком случае. Сколько времени они это делали? Вот, это клан, как я понимаю, через PlayStation ребята играют, собственно. И он через PlayStation с помощью джойстика это все сделал. Я вообще не представляю, как это. Я пока не вижу, Сергей, что ты пишешь, если что. Сам понимаешь, я смотрю стрим чувака, чтобы если что-то скажет. Может, другого кого-то надо включить, потому что там чел, короче, такой же, типа, балбес, как и я. Спасибо. Опять? Xbox клан? Чё они нас Тен называют? Так они же нас Тен... Потому что ты Тен и есть. Так ты Тен и есть. Если ты проходил квесты, ты Тен и есть. Как бы. Ебать, какие красивые места, конечно. Вот, чел сидит сейчас, вот только раз за 900 рублей купил набор. Я говорю, все вещи, которые только там можно выкупить сейчас у барыч, конечно. Блин. Офигеть. Все моды, которые он привозил. Там столько ресурсов надо, там надо просто подготовиться к этому, это жесть. Ты чё, одурела? Офигеть, Петика по-итальянски разговаривает. Хелен, одивила.
This is very important for receiving drops as well as giving drops as a streamer. A relink must happen if you have not already done so. Go to warframe.com/user and choose to unlink your account and then relink it. It's simple. Hope you're enjoying the show.
I got deals.
Опять реклама, чё, лол? Дарова, блин, он меня в игре бесит, господи, и здесь тоже. Ну, Дарова, типа, чтобы ты понимал, ты же квест проходил, по-моему, да, связанный с ним? Он всякую вторичную фигню продает, короче, за платину, причем. Так, такая фигня. О, это трейлер.
We long to remember the faces of those we loved. But those faces have now changed.
Goal Station я узнаю с тысячи, как говорится.
Prepare yourself.
Это ты можешь типа, вот видишь, типа это, они вторгаются к нам, новая война. Вот геймплей покажут в 5 утра. И Оки Прайм, вот видишь, дадут. Оки Прайм, конечно, он хорош на... Какой же звук охерительный просто. Вот, броню я жду, не знаю почему, мне чем-то нравится. В общем, хотя такой. Ну и скин для посоха, естественно. Потому что скинов для посоха очень мало вообще в игре. Ну, Goal Station вообще великолепен. У него реплики, почему, блин, да Е не это самое, у него есть, короче, как бы, вот как раз-таки ПВП связан с, как это сказать, ПВП, вот это, что ты хотел, куда ты меня звал, вот как раз там главный Тэшин, типа, он организовал все это дело для того, чтобы Тены сражались сами с собой, и оттачивать свои навыки в бою, как говорится. Там тоже всякие вещи можно, всякие скинчики хорошие, интересные, довольно-таки, то есть такие суровые подобрать тоже. Ну, у него также есть репутация, достижения какие-то, еще что-то, то есть, но это надо делать с кем-то, потому что там никогда никого нет. К примеру, с тобой тоже так же, да, можно как-то сделать, придумать. Я как-то делал, пробовал через 2 аккаунта, то есть на ноуте включал. Ну, это очень муторно, в принципе. Но сделать достижение, прокачать репу, короче, у него тоже есть клан, синдикат, так сказать. Поэтому, то есть, Тэшин. Но реплики там тоже у него не переведены, половина переведены. Сейчас будет тест, вопросы и ответы. Надеюсь, нам будут показывать геймплейные какие-то моменты. Как мне убрать, блядь, эту фигню? Все, спасибо. Можно, пожалуйста, вот это? Вот, все, отлично. Ребята играют. Вот у ребят уже мощные компы, они сидят, играют в Warframe одновременно, сидят, смотрят стрим одновременно, вообще одуреть можно. Молодец. Китайцы какие-то. Блин, я хотел бы желать на человек, который понимает, хотя бы хоть что-то объяснял. Что-то, какие-то моменты, чтобы интереснее было смотреть хотя бы. Потому что, блин, иначе это жесть какая-то. Ребята все сидят, играют одновременно и смотрят стрим ТенноКоновский. Папа, да? Гейм-дизайнер, короче, ясно. Ну, ты представь, вот, чтобы вот этой квесте, чтобы ты где-то там побегал, такие ребята сидят, делают все это, потеют, это жестко. Вот аниматор, кстати, я первый раз ее вижу. И концепт-артисты этого тоже. И эти. Я так кроме Меган здесь никого не знаю из этой тройки, как бы. Пабло Эскадор.
Beautiful. All right. We have a lot of submitted questions to go through. There are over 400 submitted questions from you, creators, players, everyone out there. We had to, you know, parse through.
Ну, в плане Warframe, конечно, в плане...
So we are going to get straight into
как сказать там? Всяких штук, как Иришка Horizon. Да, ты угадал. Ну, практически, только она старше из их команды этих Иришек, то есть. Есть она, есть вот Хелен и Ребекка. Вот их 3 они. Вот Меган, кстати, если что, на всякий случай. О-о-о! Go посмотрим. Вот Вобан, типа, его доспехи. Вдохновлялись, видишь, часть доспехов. Это реворк, типа. А, вот, показывают концепт-арты. Типа, видишь, откуда они берут свои идеи всякие. Вот у Вобана вот этот костюм есть, но он максимально такой жесткий, ну типа рыцарь, короче. У меня был, кстати. Ты видел, наверное, сейчас нет уже. Вот, а чем они вдохновляются, чтобы, как говорится, вдохновлять, скины делать вот эти вот, ну, Warframe. Как называется, я не помню, как это фигня. Не реворк, а что-то такое, типа, ну, можно будет скинчики новые, типа, красивые. Потому что надоедает все-таки, сколько бы ты не играешь на, типа, за Warframe какого-то, тебе надоедает его, как бы, все-таки вид, и в итоге скины вводят, и новыми красками начинает Warframe играть. То есть вот Вобан изначально он выглядит вот так, вот эта вот маленькая картинка, мышка показывает. И сейчас, то есть скинчик вот такой. Выглядит круто, конечно. Но в игре он максимально такой, ну, такой толстый, неуклюжий какой-то, ну, хз, не знаю. Вот, а так выглядит круто. Но у меня он был. Но места не хватает, поэтому пришлось его скипнуть. Но скин-то остался явно. Делюкс. То есть выглядит круто. Вот если бы так будут показывать скринем. Так и есть такой скин уже в игре. Ничего, не надо скринить. Уже есть такой скин в игре. То есть если они сейчас его доделывают, я тебе могу даже показать как-то. Ну ты можешь сам зайти в Warframe, собственно, и посмотреть. Вот найти этого Warframe, то есть есть такой скин, ты можешь прям его примерить, посмотреть, как он будет выглядеть. Вот его оружие. То есть это скин на молоты, по-моему. По-моему, на двуручки, типа. То ли молоты, то ли мечи, не помню. По-моему, молоты. Такой молоток у него. Он очень короткий. Если что. Не, ну выглядит, ну, нормально, красиво, чё. Вот. Это я и так без перевода понимаю прекрасно, что это Вобан. Делюкс, вот, делюкс, чел, как бы. Чел как бы придумывает все такое.
The Knights, Final Fantasy, stuff like that. So, love that.
Reb would know that game very well. All right, we're going to move on to another question, and this is for Pablo. This question comes to us from Thunder Jimmy on PC. They said, I love
Я люблю Warframe, Game Excalibur Prime, Protea, Magical Hero Yarraid. Типа где... А, ну я понял. Вопрос типа такой, что... Где они берут идеи для создания вот этих варфреймов? Типа то Ярраид, то Excalibur, то еще что-то, ну, разные, соответственно, вообще варфреймы, то есть по истории, по сути, вообще по... Как они в эту игру вообще ввязываются. То есть Ярраид максимально сейчас добавили для анимешников, так сказать, но она вообще, то есть максимально бесполезная, к сожалению. То есть у нее вот скины, я смотрел видос сегодня, и применение ей найти вообще не знаю. То есть нафига, ее тупо вкачать и потом бросить ее, то есть, ну, ты прокачиваешь ради аккаунта ее, собственно. То есть, ну, для прогресса аккаунта. Просто берешь, прокачиваешь ее и все. У нее способности, чтобы ее спорол вот этот гельмин, который у тебя на корабле, даже ее, что ты можешь взять, там ничего такого нет хорошего. Поэтому, к сожалению, да, то есть я зря делал, получается, этот квест. Ну, для себя, для коллекции, для галочки, так сказать, я сделал, посмотрел, попотели. Вот. Поэтому, как бы... Такое себе. Ладно, я в КС нажился халявой, хватит. Ну давай, иди выиграй. Я буду сидеть, плевать. Я буду сидеть сколько смогу. Максимально вообще. Пытаться что-то. Это, так сказать, история. Or I got an art that I want, or I have a theme, you know, I'll have like я понимаю, что он говорит, конечно. Like a theme for a Warframe that I want to make, and then one of those three will get me started, понятно. And then kind of my job is connecting to the other 2 points. Он рассказывает о том, как они делают, в общем, понятно, в общем, он рассказывает что-то. Он рассказывает что-то, как бы.
question is actually for everyone. This comes to us from Soda Papinski on PlayStation, and they've asked, what idea or concept for Warframe did you reject at some point and why? So obviously we have, you know, we've got game design, animation.
Чего он на PlayStation спрашивает, да? Понятно.
Eric, your take on this question.
Так, они отвечать... Стоп, мне интересно. Кое-что узнать. Сколько они будут отвечать на вопросы, я не помню.
I had some wild ideas that Ray and Jeff had to like kind of rein me in because it's. So I started with these like. The idea was like a.
Это скин на кого? Это Эквинокс. И не я не увидел. Да. Красивый арт. Конечно. Да, я тоже Destiny 2 сыграл с другом, залип на месяц, потом у него с компом травы были.
Quite a lot of ideas, which I like to start with, just wild stuff, and I love samurais and ninjas.
Может, печатать еще такое?
Yeah. Anyway, so as you can see here, it went through a lot of different changes and ideas. I was like, oh,
а можно как-то фильтровать, чтобы только были русские сообщения? Да вряд ли. Самурай фрейм.
Scale it back a little bit so you can actually build it and make sense of it. And the next
хоть раз обломилось бы что, хоть что-то.
Throw like all kinds of different materials in and all these things, and that's just not possible. So,
it's very complex what's happening here.
I was dreaming big, and Jeff and Ray.
Так, это что он показывает?
But anyway, I was really excited about working on it, so I went through a ton of different ideas here.
Понял, спасибо. Че умный? Лайк поставили ему. Молодец, объяснил.
Yeah, and then the final one's in game. I didn't post the actual image, but yeah. So that's kind of one of the. I had a lot of rejections on that image, so on this idea.
Hey, more
but it's a lot of fun
better.
too. So.
Like,
yeah.
Imagine if you only had one idea. And you're like, I don't have any other ones. It's just this one. Yeah.
So.
All right, we'll go to Pablo on that question in terms of concept for Warframe and the rejection aspect.
So basically, like how we kind of decide like the Warframes we want to do is essentially that whoever's gonna.
Дело вид, что понимаешь, что он говорит.
What they want to do, and there's not a lot of roadblocks along the way, but I do have like so I have like a little.
Че, прикинь, новый Warframe покажет. Вау, ха-ха. Это на Кона будет круто.
Some is not very rejected, but some I'm sort of postponing. Maybe I'll make them someday. Maybe I won't. It's kind of hard to tell.
Значит, это Пабло, это кто? Гейм-дизайнер. Значит, он анонсирует все концепты арты и варфреймов, типа, создает, как я понимаю. Буду знать. Не знаю, зачем мне информация, но полезно, почему бы нет. Новые пушки. Редко, оказывается, хорошие. Понятно.
But I don't think I'll ever make it because now, when I wrote that was so long ago. Now that it's so hard to really have like cohesion with AI at the speed and the speed that we move, that it just doesn't. I just.
Не, ну так-то насчет времени, да. Для обычных работяг, так сказать, самое то суббота-воскресенье, как раз вовремя, типа максимально правильное время для того, чтобы проводить TennoCon. Все еще будут сейчас играть спокойно. Опа. Сейчас так быстро идти, что никто не узнает, что Ребекка лучше вайфу. Да? Хочу фармить, пустите меня фармить. Ломка по фарму.
So I have all those, and then I have a document that's just like little, like almost like Twitter snippets of like, oh, this is kind of cool, and they're just whatever ideas, and it's just pages and pages of random thoughts. So you know, there's always something.
Maybe.
2022, year of the Pablo Warframes. I'm into it.
Pablo frame.
I can't read that. Sorry.
Чел, давай удиви, плиз. Сейчас скажу, да. Ну, вот вам нового Warframe, как бы.
Obviously, we appreciate everyone being excited. They want to log in, they want to get their drops. We'll have it all taken care of. We are still working on the servers. Hang tight, hang out. Let's continue our live development Q&A.
Люди, чё? Я пытаюсь в чате, потому что все-таки.
Hi, I'm Jamie Voiceover, and my question is for Elise. So on your Twitter feed, you've posted different works in progress and different references for your animations. I would like to know how you find these references and how do you actually end up applying them to the final product. Thanks.
Well, that is actually a brilliant question because a lot of people think that getting in the industry as an animator is a lot about being good at it, which obviously that helps. But when you're in games, I find that a lot of it is also coming up with really good ideas, and it's taken a while to kind of find the best way to not only create good animations, but create things that are different and unique and interesting, and finding ways to...
ВДЕ возьмут. Мне кажется, Стив на сериал уже не пиво разливал спирт.
Which is generally, I'll kind of start with like a brainstorm. I'll look through the documentation.
Да, кстати, сегодня дофига тренировок. Ой, тренировок. Татуировок, действительно.
And then I'll use that to think of things adjacent to that I could actually pull from as kind of motion reference. So, for example, with
Ну-ка, гол посмотрим татуировки у нее. Что посмотрим татуировки?
Okay, what kind of sources could I look at? I could do like juggling, performance, magic, ballet.
Сейчас качество лучше станет.
I wanted it to be kind of like sophisticated but entertainer based, and then so when I kind of have that, I can kind of start looking at different YouTube videos.
Всегда там лотос, кстати. Концепт-арт.
Like if someone professional doing something I can do, like. Fortunately, guys, I have to spoil it. The magic trick. I don't know how to do magic tricks. That's cool. One of my skills is, you know, I can.
Если вот эта девушка, значит, отвечает за анимацию, как я понимаю.
So one of my options is to find someone else doing something cool and use that to make something cool. Or another thing I'll do is just find a bunch of cool poses and reference images, and then I'll just stick a camera on and run through a bunch of different things, returning to pose each time. And usually if I just keep going through certain things, some magic will happen, and it's being a good animator is building on that skill building, that idea building process of being able to move your body enough times that you find some magic in there somewhere and identifying it. So for Harlequin, I think most of it was found footage with some of my own stuff. For Wisp, I didn't actually do any reference for. That was mostly done where
Чел шарит, ладно, хорошо.
And I think I just spent a day trying to block out as many animations as possible. So I would just do like 6 poses maybe.
Так, надо поставить, попробовать телефон на зарядку еще раз, пока есть возможность.
Everyone has their own ways of finding inspiration, and I'm sure, Eric, you have tons of ways to find
not inspiringly.
But I generally find I get my best work from throwing a camera at myself with some very clear idea in mind of what I'm trying to aim for, and some.
Да, показывай. Чел, показывай. Да покажи, ты ее просто. Ну ладно, пофиг, я так сделаю, окей. Что там за скриншоты?
And what their emotional state is, and then I try and get into that emotional state and run through the beats, and then again it's just me in front of a camera going through those beats, and then I play it back and I go through and I delete the worst ones and come left with the best one, and if that has some magic in it that makes me excited to work on it, then that's when I press ahead.
Speaking of creative processes, our next question for everyone is from Yuri on PC, and they've asked, what is the creative process from draft to final when creating a story quest for Warframe? What are you looking for when creating a new quest? So from the angle of a new quest, we're going to go to Eric first.
Как обычно, скрытые смыслы во всем, блин. Warframe, ребята.
Like I think for when we get new ideas and new quest ideas coming in. Like say the last year the Damos stuff was awesome. And I think what we usually do, our process is kind of like we get all the information we can out of these guys, and then we start collecting reference and piling that together, and then start creating like some high-level paintings to put under their noses and see if this is going to fall along what they're saying. So that's kind of where we start, and then it just grows from there. And it can change. It can completely be discarded. So, but yeah, that's kind of.
Перестань быть.
As far as I get in, as far as getting involved with that stuff.
Перестань быть. Ныть. Stay forward.
In terms of quests. Right, so with the quests, generally Jeff will got some like basic idols or mocap already in it, and then he's put it in the scene with a rough camera, so I vaguely know
скин на Протею красив.
And then usually he'll talk me through, okay, he's happy here, and then he's surprised, and then he's going to do this, and then this moment we need to sell, and then I'll kind of go cool, and I will go away and get the emotions and acting, and you know, get in his own place.
Ой-ой-ой, да.
And then Jeff will kind of guide me towards meeting my animation and his direction.
Русские, чтобы учить Локи, нужно с 12:00 30 минут смотреть. Час ночи у меня будет по времени.
The taste master, Jeff.
Creative process is a lot about someone having a clear vision and then everyone else just kind of.
Он Пабло вспотел, как я понимаю.
In terms of game design, Mr. Pablo, do you have any creative processes from?
I don't get involved a lot with quests. I mean, every now and then I'll have conversations with like Steve when we're starting to like choose where it's gonna go, and it's essentially
look like
the true line of the quest, like what is it
Drop
the
progress.
quest is sort of about. And then he'll generally ask me like about ideas on how do we make this without actually having to make like a whole new system and stuff like that. And then we end up making one like Gerali where it did require a whole new system and a whole bunch of things. But that's kind of our style and our ambition. That we just it's hard to resist the pull of keeping adding things. So my involvement is literally just on those is more like every now and then I'll chirp in a few ideas, I'll give some comments, and that's as far as I get on Quest. Fortunately, we have some very, very talented people to handle those, and they're amazing.
They are. We have a little similar question. This one is for Eric specifically. This is from Karagi_Kureda on PlayStation. They've asked, approximately how many drafts does it take before finally getting something that you're satisfied with?
Well, you saw my Equinox adventure, so that took quite a long time. It really depends on if you get that first kind of idea figured out, like roughed in, and they're kind of happy with it. It's funny, like it can. The Equinox is a great example of like I was over here and they're over here going no, come over here. So but other times you start right there with them and it goes much quicker. So there is no actual like time that you can lock it down in, but yeah, it's all fun. I still love it.
So whatever Jeff's attitude
yeah, whatever
is that
Jeff
day.
feels like, maybe he didn't work out as much, or his protein shakes haven't kicked in or something. So
the worst days.
Catch him in the morning.
Yeah.
Not a morning person.
After his oatmeal, it's nicer to talk to.
His protein oatmeal.
Yeah.
They say that art is never finished, but only abandoned, and I think it's very, very true. It's like it's the sort of thing that I think whenever like we're making anything, any system, any Warframe, any whatever, if we had 3 more months to make it, we just eat those 3 more months.
Вопрос, откуда стример, который я сейчас смотрю, знает столько про Warframe? Ну, молодец, ладно, всяком случае знает. Что знает, что Пабло, что он чел, какой он чел, откуда, что он знает. Ну ладно, если знает, хорошо. Ладно.
Very direct about what he wants, and that usually we're not too far off. All animators seem to generally be all on the same pace, and it really helps as well that Jeff's obviously an animator, and so we all kind of speak the same language, which is just nuts. It's like, oh, it's got to go bang and then flex and then woo, and you're like, oh yeah, I got it, 100%. I'll go get that started right now. And but we get weekly reviews where we kind of show what we're working on, and he can kind of guide us along the way. So generally, it doesn't happen that anyone's too far off the mark, and if it is, it's usually not a huge crazy fix. So we're pretty lucky in that way.
Always going back to that Jeff guy. All right, we're going to go to our next question. This is a question for
Давай
everyone.
следующий вопрос.
This is from Hoover on PC, and they want to know what keeps you going through creative
Ни хрена ничего не понял.
burnouts.
Вообще даже непонятно.
No.
But yes,
A little
but
bit.
no.
Молчат.
Or a lot of bit. This happens.
Да, еще промокод еще тебе. Офигел, чел, как бы. И так тебе халяв тут дают. Еще и промокодик тебе бы, да? Больше ничего не хочешь?
To jog the ideas loose kind of thing. Or I'll take downtime, walk away, or play other games. So I won't say the other game I like to play. Old magazines.
Вопросы на русском.
Fantasy art. Sci-fi.
Я так понимаю, можно не ожидать. Нет, конечно.
Watch some animes.
Ooh,
you know, so.
I can get down with that.
Yeah. So that's it, and then you solve it. It's done. You get right out of it.
Было бы круто, если бы в их команде был чел, который бы... Хотя нет. Русской аудитории тоже. Там и китайская, и всем остальным, у всех. Ну, есть, мне кажется, такие ребята по-любому. Они же переводят как-то это все. Во всяком случае, спасибо, что они хотя бы переводят квесты, чтобы мы понимали смысл.
And then over time, I've realized that I see it more like a well with like one side that fills up and one side that goes out. And if I open the dam too much and all the water pours out, I'm like, oh god, I've got no water left. And I don't really have like a fast track to filling it back up, except for to just pull back. You know, try not to think about stuff after work, try not to work late, try not to work weekends, and just try and like chill out basically and have some fun,
recharge.
Life, and yeah, recharge. I think that I used to try and find there's the one solution. I'm gonna eat healthy. I'm gonna go around.
Сейчас, секунду, я приду.
Do all this stuff, but like really you can't rush. When you're burnt out, you're just in this fog, and it feels terrible. And I've realized that I do much better trying not to open those floodgates and then trying to pull things back in as quickly as possible, and to just try and be like, oh, I'm starting to not feel good. I need to pull back before it gets to the burnout point. And obviously that's not always something you can do if there's a big deadline, and I 100% get it, and I think everyone who's in a creative space goes through this at some point, and even probably not creative spaces, you just hit a wall. And I haven't found a solution to that wall except for to just be like, oh god, there's the wall. I'll stop running right at it.
I acknowledge the wall.
And then at least when the wall hits, maybe it's small enough I can jump over it, and it's like, instead of like a
face plant. Yeah. Mr. Pablo, creative blocks and burnouts.
So for me, it's a little different just because I have a lot of work, a lot of jobs, and so, you know, if I'm blocked on a Warframe, I just leave it and move on to working on some system stuff. If that's blocked, then I can go and do some UI stuff or do some management stuff. Like this, there's literally like I just can like kind of jump around until I'm like, okay, well, you know, things kind of get done. Also, my brain is pretty good at like boomeranging. If I'm stuck in something, I'll go and do something else, and all of a sudden my brain will be like, hey, I got that solution you needed earlier, and I go, cool. And that's kind of how it works for me. So.
To each their own. We love it. All right, we're going to go into a fun and classic question. This is from Dirac Hasaki on Nintendo Switch. The classic question of what is your favorite Warframe? I'm going to start with Pablo.
I always feel guilty answering one of the Warframe side design because just, you know, that's kind of a bit egotistic. So I go like right in the middle. I choose Nesha because, you know, I reworked Nesha, but, you know, it was already made before me. So Nesha is my choice.
Love it. Elise. I know what you're going to say, so just say it.
It's Wiz, which seems very selfish, but I actually kind of like the damage and support role, so I love all that. So it is a bit big-headed, but I love playing Wiz. But I also do play Frostprime a lot.
A classic.
Yeah, the whole defense bubble thing, because I'm terrible at most Warframe things, so I'm like, hey, I got a bubble.
Yeah, I can survive. I'm good.
Don't yell at me. Bubble.
Eric Vetter.
Garuda.
Ooh, Oh, Blood Girl.
I love the blood stuff. So,
Great choices all around. Great.
Yeah. They make a good team.
Speaking of like finding like that the one move where you're just siphoning all the blood to stay alive, I'm like, yeah, I need that.
Yeah.
I'm not good at the game.
Yeah.
Like collecting all these enemies and just being like, look at all the blood.
You're playing against people with like
awesome.
2,000 hours or more, and you're like, ha ha ha! I don't have time for that. Bubble. But
I
I've got a
keep
bubble.
everyone alive,
I got a bubble.
I'll keep
I can do
everyone
the
alive.
bubble thing.
Plus, it's just so cool. It's one of my favorite Prex cards that I did.
Oh, Miss
too,
O
so-
flexing your Prex card art. Very good.
But I love that character. So.
Very good. All right, we're gonna move on to a video question for Pablo. This comes to us from Lifewater. So let's play the video.
Hello everyone, Lifewater here. My question is for Pablo and the dev team. There have been a lot of great reworks in the past, notable ones being ones such as Zephyr, Ember, Vauban, and Nezha. Is there a plan to continue to rework some of the older frames who have become a bit outdated and outclassed by the newer ones?
Okay. Well, first of all, I take offense that Wukong wasn't mentioned, but I'll let it go. We don't currently have any plans for reworks. Reworks are kind of, reworks are kind of like a complicated thing sometimes. So, for example, you mentioned Nezha. If I remember when I did that one, I checked like the usage of Nezha like a month before the thing, and then like 3 months after the thing, and it changed, but it was like, So if I go right now and I do a rework on, let's say, Ash, for example, honestly, it's unlikely the usage is going to change a lot, unless in the process of reworking him, I break him and make him like godlike, which obviously not something that I want to do. So generally, you gotta like the way I think about it is like when you're doing something, you're also not doing something else. So that's kind of the balance that we have to think. So even though I do think going back and touching some of those older Warframes will make the game better, at the same time, that means that if we're working on that, we're not working on new stuff. It's a hard balance there. Sometimes I do feel like it's important, like we did with Zephyr, for example. We'll see in the future, but at this time we have no current plans for any other ones.
All right, you heard it first from Pablo at home. All right, we're moving on to a question for
Чего не
Elise.
повезло?
This comes to us from Red Gamer Tiger 4 on Xbox, and they'd like to know, what is your favorite animation to make for a Warframe, and why is it your favorite to create? Elise.
So, it's not out yet, technically, but I have
Сейчас я
got
тоже
an
попытаюсь
update
зайти в
on
Warframe
Lee's
сразу.
favorite
То мало ли.
animation, but it's not. It's coming up later today, so I can't ruin anything. But unfortunately, I'm going to sound like a broken record because the thing is with getting a Warframe.
Он знает, он понимает, о чем говорит. Ладно, окей.
My favorite one was this one for Wisp, where she gets to duplicate herself and fly around herself.
And it looks so good
Okay,
on
go,
every
сейчас
single
зайду.
Warframe. Like you cannot go wrong with this one. I love it.
Warframe.
Like pitching this, and everyone was like, "How are we gonna get this to work?" And I was like, "I don't know, I made it look cool."
Yeah. You figured out.
Анимация
And
показывает.
it looks amazing. So
Wisp.
yeah, that was my favorite. And why was the question? Why was it?
And why is
cool?
it your favorite?
Why is it my favorite? I think I've said before, like I love working on anything that's very elegant and flowy. And she's got no feet, so I like
Что опять?
so I can make it fly and do all kinds of crazy stuff. So the whole set for her was just a joy to work on because there was no holds barred, and also I didn't have to worry about it conflicting with anything else because the only one I had to worry about was Tanya, and I knew I wanted to do something very different. So I just got to have a lot of fun with it. It all just came very easily to me because there's a lot of me.
Сейчас глянем как раз, что за...
And it's so good. Like I cannot preach enough how amazing that animation is. We're going to move on to a video question for Elise again, and this comes to us from
Видео вопрос какой-то.
Hi, I'm Kirarahime, and I was wondering
О,
what the
ясно.
design
Там,
process
короче,
was like
сделали
for
какого
Warframe,
летянку.
such as Wisp, and if you would ever do a making of series where we could see the concept
Ты серьезно?
art
Ты
all the
долбанулся?
way to the final product.
Yeah, I mean, up for whatever you guys want me to do.
What do you want? What do you want?
What was the design process like?
Design process for Wisp.
Right. I think I've kind of said this already, but so when I got the concept for Wisp, I knew I didn't want to do Titania because we already had her as the floating babe. So
Ой. Погоди, играть сама, ё-моё.
My kind of keywords I drew from her concept.
Прикольно.
Elegant,
А, вот все появился.
Flow and be kind of mysterious. So
Конечно, стрим вести. Короче, я хз, не знаю. Меня пока не справится, скорее всего. Но я зайду, посмотрю. Там пока ничего такого нет. Там сейчас столько здесь онлайна в Warframe самом, что капец лютый, конечно. Давай, зайди, чел. Да зачем я сейчас пытаюсь зайти, непонятно вообще. О. Что? Не может быть такого. А, нет, все нормально. Я думал, уже как день, типа, новый. Сколько там всего. Ёпрст. Присоединяйтесь к Tenno из системы TennoCon. Примите участие в демонстрации первого геймплея новой войны. И узнайте обо всем, обо всех других событиях. Кроме того, посетите бар ракетира, купите инвентарь в течение ограниченного времени. Да. У меня нету пропуска на эту фигню. Так, где, собственно, должно быть сообщение, по-моему. Или здесь сразу сейчас с новой системой? Я просто не знаю даже. Он сразу дается, получается. Ну-ка. Gunblade этот. Нету. О, почему? Я же забрал его, типа. Флюгер. Может, он через какое-то время придет? Строфа, флюгера, Бранд, Макс, Бо. Не знаю. Значит, должно сообщение прийти, как я понимаю. Ты заколебал, чел.
Operator, I've run diagnostic regressions. All systems nominal. You don't need to thank me.
Почему мне не дают? Tenno Life. Go. Го, будем как тот стример на 94-м. Там все-таки, может, русские ребята побольше будут. Хотя здесь везде русские ребята так-то будут. Ты ПРС-то заколебали. Ладно, пока потерпимо. Ой, что я пытался там выдернуть. Сейчас бы выдернул, блин. Ага. Странно, почему мне дроп не приходит. Хотя я вроде нажал. Собрать. А, все, мне только есть покинуть реле и все. Что я должен здесь увидеть? Тут сейчас народище миллиард человек будет просто. Баррикетира здесь нет. Для меня нету, для других есть. Вот он там, по идее, должен где-то быть. Где все люди, я уже не помню, честно сказать. Давос какой-то. Сектор 21. О, я могу присесть, как этот чел, как бы рядом с этим чуваком. Вот. Все, будем сидеть вот так вот. Так, хорош. Обратно возвращаемся на... Так, у меня там ничего лишнего не открыто. Где ютубский этот? Сейчас сделаем перезагрузку. Как раз. Нет, трансляцию одновременно, чаты и так далее меня все не потянет. Явно. Не потянет, короче. И то, и то. Окей. Сейчас я выйду из Warframe тогда. ПК не справляется с таким, конечно. Чтобы и Life, и это, и то, как бы. Окей, хорошо.
It reuses the same content and it just makes it a little bigger so that whenever you
now, so you could say we've grown a little bit in our 8 years. Our next question is for everyone, but I'm actually going to point it at Elise.
Я пока вообще заглючил, пиздец.
And they're asking, what is
Ужасно.
the main
Зря я это все
inspiration
сделал,
behind Sisters, Hounds,
конечно.
in-game, real world, etc.
Здесь там СМИ написал, у Максима он отказывает легкое, зашибись. Хреново, чё. Прочитал бы новость.
For each of them, and I, did my thing. Was like, okay, I'll go look for some dog reference, and couldn't really find anything that I was looking for.
Давай, раздуплись, плиз.
We have like a pets channel at work. I wonder if anyone just has got a bunch of recordings of their pets doing cool stuff that they could share with me, and then I could get our animals in game. And of course I was flooded with tons and tons of videos, which was brilliant. And so I think
Я не понимаю, в смысле дроп, да? Почему я не могу дроп свой забрать? О, нет, не Prime трофей, а... Все, пока
those were the main ones I
закроет и
used.
все.
It's
Может
quite hard to
быть,
know what you need as an animator.
из захвата тоже
Someone else's
какие-то лаги,
perspective.
не лаги.
Okay, it needs to go back to
Ай.
idle, not move too much, or not move too little, but be something unique, but it's not got eyes or nose or teeth or, you know, so you're looking for something very specific. So a lot of them didn't work, unfortunately, but quite a few of them made it in the game. And never possible to
Показывают анимацию. Вот это вот прислужника, так сказать. Я хочу собрать, что надо сделать.
D-staff pets, which is really cool. I love that. Yeah. It's so cute. I was gonna send you a video of my dog, but all he did at that point was chew things.
Узнаете завершение заданий. Ну все, я по идее должен
Alright, we're gonna
получить.
go to a question for Pablo. This is from Blue Bunny on PC, and they have said, "This is the first time I ever saw the Dog Days event, and my first thought was, do they have pool noodles as weapons? Do you think
Все, она
they might
раздуплилась. Я могу выйти на реле и, собственно, стрим смотреть. Хорошо, ладно.
Pablo, you had a hot fire answer for this. I need to know."
So initially I didn't really have a thought on this because I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. But then for some reason I started thinking it'd be kind of cool if you could have like a
Toxic
pool
toy.
noodle, and then the enemies toss at you like water balloons, and if you timed it right, you could bounce them back at them. I thought it would be like not the same game, but like a separate like mode of the game where you could do that alternate sort of gameplay. I don't know. I like the idea of the timing of batting a water balloon with a pool noodle. I don't know if it would work.
Все, короче, я могу мороженое поесть спокойно, я думаю, да? Ой, я же без зыбки сижу.
Sound of that would be like a foam pool noodle hitting a water balloon. I like it.
I think it's cool.
Так а что, в принципе? Я буду кушать сейчас мороженое. Поэтому, чем смотреть, как идут. Так, все, я могу дальше чат видно.
Don't think we would animate it. I think that the tech team's going to kill me here, but I think that the smartest way to do it would probably be to reuse existing two-handed idols and make it a weapon that has some physics to it. So you could whack something. I think that would probably be the best way of doing it.
Well, we're going to
Какие все они эмоциональные, конечно.
Everyone here has confirmed that pool noodles.
Зачем еще заходить на реле, я не понимаю, типа. Ну, если, конечно, у тебя есть билет, то заходи. У меня нет билета.
This is from Dynamex4 on PC. Their question is, with traditional animation, cartoons, anime, 3D animation, etc., people usually animate per frame. How does that translate in a video game where I'm able to play at 30 FPS or 144 FPS at the push of a button?
Okay, so here
3D анимация. Короче, я пока кушаю мороженое.
Здесь
не очень громко.
So we animate in 30 frames a second, and then export at 30 frames a second. So my understanding is that we are presenting 30 frames, like a snapshot of a pose on each frame for each second, 30 times, and giving that to the computer. If you then play it at 144 frames per second, the computer interpolates smoother between each point of data. So it looks like it's going smoother, but it's really the same data. So we usually use 30 for gameplay, which works great for gameplay reasons because we can't go too high with data, otherwise you're going to have performance issues. But with cinematics, I generally think we use 60. Just because you have more data points, so it helps obviously smooth things out. But the smoothing factor is done by the computer, not by data, which makes it look like it's smoother, but it's the computer is taking on more of the workload, so it's less expensive.
And you said you weren't a technical person.
Well, I hope I got that right, because if not, I think I get revoked in the animation community. Someone's going to be like, actually, that's not how it works at all. You're an idiot.
Две женщины, как говорится, нашли друг
That's how
друга.
it sounds like it works.
Все сидят,
So
слушают
we'll go
просто.
with that until someone tells me otherwise.
All right, our next question is for Pablo. This is a question from Shidnivicus.
Я понял, что это вопрос. Пабло.
A lot of devs say doors can be the trickiest thing to design and program. Is that the case for Warframe? If not, what is your game's version of a door?
Doors. We did have for example, doors. Obviously, doors work pretty well in Warframe, but we did have a problem with well, not a problem. It was the way they were set up. for clients, sometimes you would be like running really fast, and if you had lag, you would just slap your face against the door. And we changed that just like maybe like 2 years ago, something like that. I think is when we changed them to be authoritative on the client side, so that if the client got close, it opened even if they had a lot of lag to the server. So there are issues like that, but you know, we've improved them over the years. If I had to think of one that's like the vein of our existence, I think I almost feel bad saying this one because it's so fresh. But finishers have been finishers are the doors of Warframe.
Все красиво обыграть,
yeah,
чтобы не ударить горячим лицом.
It's very easy to get into
горячим лицом, чтобы не ударить.
Like I remember back when Ash originally came, was this actually? I think Ash had this problem at the very beginning, where you would teleport to an enemy to do the finisher, and then you would be like a little below the ground, so you would start falling to the world. Things like that have been happening since forever, and every time we fix one and we're like, yes, we're done,
Мне кажется, они
then another one crops up, and it's kind of been like
явно
actually very recently we fixed the Royal We have a fantastic
подготовленным
team.
вопросом,
Like a very long digging and you know into the because obviously in a game this big the code keeps growing and growing and growing, so they dug through all the spaghetti and they found some of the issues and they resolved them very recently.
Ну, самое интересное, что
you know, and I've said this before, but now I actually believe that maybe finally we're there.
You're gonna jinx it, Pablo. How could you? All right, we have another question for Pablo. It's a video question by Rebel Dusty Pinky, so let's play it.
Hello, my name is Real Dusty Pinky. I'm a Warframe creator
and
avid Warframe player. I want to know more about Scarlet Spear. Scarlet Spear was my favorite event that ever came out so far on Warframe. I loved the mechanics. I loved working with other teams to complete an objective, and I want to know if there's going.
Оказывается.
Actually, it's more like that. We do obviously want to bring it back because we thought it was great. It's just more that.
Салют на улице.
We don't want to go through the 2 months we went there, like before and after release. That period was brutal, and we don't want to repeat that. So, even though a lot of the things we did and fixed at the time would be like applied now, it's not as easy as just turn it on and it works. We definitely would have to do some again a lot of load testing and stuff like that, and try and figure out you know, just to make sure it doesn't destroy our lives for a month. So we definitely want to bring it back. It's definitely something that's a priority for us. Well, it's definitely something we want to do. I shouldn't say priority because you'll find out the priority later today. But it is something we want to do.
Awesome. All right, another question for Pablo. These are the more technical questions for designing. It's from Equi111 on PC. Their question is, are there any plans to rework certain types of missions, namely defense and mobile defense, to be less stay and put and more challenging or interesting? Pablo?
I don't. So you know, in general, my tendency is to say there's not a lot of gain from reworking some.
Вопрос про реворк какой-то миссии, видимо.
It's actually very good because it kind of changes the pacing. You know, if you're doing a defense.
Сейчас все сидят, наверное, так же, как и я, что-то кушают. Смотрят стрим в надежде увидеть какие-то картинки. Ой.
It's also very good when you're starting in the game, so that you're not like fully overwhelmed, because at that point you're also
какие-то интересные
so many other things. So I think
моменты,
it's much better to think like,
концепт-арты.
Let's create the new, I don't know,
вот.
nuclear defense, or you know, something. Make a new game mode that is more elaborate.
Ой,
that's more interesting to me than going and changing the old one, because that's the design part. Then there's also the live service game part, which is if I go and change the defense into something more complicated, a lot of people are going to be angry. You know, a lot of people are going to be happy, a lot of people are going to be angry, some people are not going to care. So, you know, why go into the whole getting people angry? Better to make a new one, and it's like, hey, we have new stuff, versus, hey, we took away that other thing you liked and now we changed it to this other thing, right? So I think it works better to just basically keep adding on top, which is, if you look at the history of Warframe, is very much kind of our policy.
We love it. All right, we have 5 minutes left in our Q&A segment, so I'm going to try and fly through these as quick as possible.
Click on some mode.
But first, we're going to do a video question for Pablo. This one is from TVG Karu. Let's play it.
It's a natural part of any creative process, especially the ones that's been going on for years and years. So, like listeners, would you ever consider retconning any in-game features to try a fresh new approach?
Yeah, I mean, we've done several 2.0s and things like that. It definitely depends on the feature, right? Like for us, like high priority comes from like we call it preserving your investment, right? Like any time that you spent in the game, earning a mod or doing something, we want to make sure that you never feel like you're gonna lose it, right? So that's kind of our priority. So if we decide to rework, for example, if we decide to rework modding, it would be kind of a nightmare, right? Because we have to now figure out, okay, well, there's like, I don't even know how many we have right now, like 1,600, 2,000, I don't even know how many mods we have. But if we had to redo them, then we have to look at, okay, what does every player have? What happens if we remove this mod that maybe some people don't even care that much about? But if we remove it, we gotta compensate that. It's like a lot. It's very touchy there. So you gotta make sure that if we're doing it, it is for a very good reason. So would we ever consider it? Absolutely, we've done it a bunch of times, but it is something to be taken with caution.
Very much caution. All right, we're gonna go to a question for Elise. This is from Otark_Kyrie on PC. Sorry, I butcher everything. They've asked, what would be your personal top 3 antiquated design? Is that how you say that? Perfect. Or mechanics in your respective departments that need some love?
Well, I'm not going to go over 3 because that sounds like it's going to take a lot of time. But one of the things I had a lot of fun when we thought made a great improvement to the game was adding the flying set forward. And I think it would be really cool to have a couple of move sets we could do, like a normal, a heavy, and a light, so that when you're playing, and we could tie those to specific warframes. So like you'd have like Grendel and Rhino could have a heavier walk and a run, and if you're playing like Volt or someone, then he would have a lighter default walk and a run. And unfortunately, that's a lot of extra animation, a lot of extra performance and code and stuff. So I don't know if it's even feasible, but I think that would be really cool.
I agree. I'm on board. We have a question for everyone. This is from Elmet on PC. They've asked, can we gather the power of this live panel under the expertise of Elise to produce a motorbike type of vehicle for our warframes? K-drives are cool, but a K-racer would be even cooler. Eric, what do you think?
Yes. Motorbikes would be amazing, I think. From like a big cruiser like a Harley Fat Boy or to like these insane sport bikes, I'm like a Grenier bike or like an Oracle speed bike, that'd be dope. Totally should do that.
Grenier bike,
my favorite part of Cyberpunk was riding around on a motorbike. The mechanics in that were beautiful. If we could get anything close to that, I would be down, and I am also available for shooting reference for that.
I'm also available for the concept of that.
Okay.
And the animations.
Okay. Pablo, game design, motorbike.
What I would add for sure is Devil May Cry 5. You're riding your bike, you jump off, and then you start beating people up with your bike. Yeah, that works immediately.
Bike.
Devil May Cry.
All right, I won't go out of order so Dean doesn't kill me. So we are going to do one more question because we are unfortunately out of time. I apologize. This one is for Eric Vetter, and it is from Queen Miss Rule. And they said, good afternoon, Tenno. My question is for Eric. What is your favorite skateboard trick?
Oh, that's funny. When I used to skateboard, which I got a little bigger, so it's harder to skateboard now, but the kickflip was probably the best one. And then I kind of transitioned that into the no-comply kickflip, so that's kind of my favorite trick.
Everything you just said, I have no idea what it is. All right, unfortunately, we're out of time for this panel. I had a lot more questions, and I appreciate you guys writing and thinking of answers for these, and of course being here. Crazy times these are. We got double vaccinated in the office. Pablo is safe at home. Pablo, thank you so much for joining us remotely. Anything you'd like to say? Departing words?
Yes.
A pleasure to join you.
Every day. Oh God, we talked at the same time.
That's all right. Elise, go ahead.
Thank you so much to my team that inspires me every day. Love you guys.
Pablo, what do you got?
I just want to say a pleasure being here with you, and all the Tenno, be attentive for what's coming later. I'm sure you are. It's very, very exciting.
Yeah, this has been awesome. Thanks for having me. I'd love to do this again, and I can't wait for everyone to see what we got lined up the rest of the day. It's gonna be great.
We have a very exciting day planned, so don't go anywhere. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you online. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Your Twitch account is linked to your Warframe account, so you can receive Twitch drops while watching TennoCon 2021. To link your Twitch account to your Warframe account, go to warframe.com/user and click the sync link to link. Just make sure you're logged into the Warframe account that you want to receive the drops on. This year, for watching throughout the day, you can get a Grineer Gunblade weapon. During Tenno Live, watch for a free Loki Prime. Enjoy TennoCon 2021.
I got deals. Come do my sale, come do my sale. Gotta dump this merch or I go to jail. Just kidding, friend. But seriously, I need to sell this stuff quick.
Реклама. Все, осталось чуть-чуть. Так, я могу включить, в принципе, вебку. Что скажешь? Мне здесь вебки мешает вообще ужас. Вы не видите половины. Ой. Она до сих пор это фигня на конкурс. Уф, это красиво. Ой-ой-ой. А где как на целый экран взять? Ой. Не, вот это красота, конечно. Короче, они планировали. Программу спланировали, они будут. Мороженка скушал маленькое, замерз.
Thank you, White Golf Clan. White Golf Shizu, Zizi Nimin Yuwoman Fenxiang Nimin de Daochang.
Фига себе, Хелен, блин, она и по-китайски разговаривает, и по-итальянски. Фига себе, ты молодец, конечно. Это да, умна. Когда она успевает все это делать, тебе еще языки знает. Офигеть.
Jurassic, and peaceful. Decorations need to be placed very carefully.
Как они это сделали вообще? Как?
No preset shadow
Как
art
они
decoration in
сделали?
Warframe. It's all player creativity that made these happen. Here we are now in the clan's cyberpunk market. It has a lot of fun little details and stores that they've created.
Я вообще не понимаю.
One of my favorites being the sake bar, where they've created more beautiful shadow art to give it some life in this city. Naturally, Parvos's vaults, very well guarded, I'm certain. Thank you for sharing your dojo.
Art of Warframe сейчас будет.
There are just 4 dojos left on our tour, Tenno. I'll catch you in the next one.
Да. Я помню, на F надо нажимать. Просто F нажать и все. F нажал уже, да?
It's Megan again, and I'm back with another friendly reminder to
И ты мне напоминаешь,
чтобы
получить Twitch. Фига у тебя... Не, у Меган дофига татушки, кстати.
Back in February 2021. This is very important for receiving drops as well as giving drops as a streamer. A relink must happen if you have not already done so. Go to warframe.com/user and choose to unlink your account.
Ну это полезная инфа. Мало ли кто-то заходит только что и не знает, что делать.
Welcome, friends. Buy my merch while it's hot. I'm desperate to sell all this stuff today. For no particular reason. Don't you know there's a sale going on? And that it's incredible?
Новый контент. Так она это просто показывает, это не факт, что она сейчас выйдет. Блин. Вот так вот.
Welcome, Tenno, to the Art of Warframe, a pre-recorded
Daniel,
panel for TennoCon, and another year of talking to our talented panelists. My name is Danielle. I am a community manager. I am joined by Jeff, Keith, and Kaz, 3 members of the Digital Extremes art team, in which there are many, many, many wonderful artists. And why don't we get started with some introductions?
Hi, I'm Jeff. I'm the art director on Warframe. Nice to see you guys again. It's been a while. It feels like it's been a minute since we did this last time.
Hi, I'm Kaz. I'm the weapons team lead.
Hi, I'm Keith Thompson. I'm a concept designer. I've been helping out on Warframe since day one, and it's been about a year since the last TennoCon since I've seen everyone. And hi, Warframe players. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And this year's art panel is a bit of a trip down memory lane, or as we've been calling it, quest to the new war.
Or see how much Jeff forgets.
Or see how much we all forget. So years and years and years of quests. We will be giving some context around those quests. And of course, I do have to give a spoiler warning, but maybe you want to stick around and watch anyways, see some cool concept art, see what you have in store for you if you are going down the quest line towards the new war. So we'll start with that, and then we will...
So this is like basically an open discussion on all quests that we've done at this point.
Yes, Jeff,
everything that it entails.
You've done all of them, right? You've checked all the boxes.
As far as I know. See if there's any surprises in here.
There will be a quiz at the end of the panel, just in case you didn't know. But we will also move into another section to be continued, which for our Codex aficionados out there, that may ring some bells. And then we'll top it all off.
Блин, я-то думал, она вот-вот выйдет. Да это еще просто показывает, не факт, что она выйдет.
I guess we should get started with our quest to the new
новая
war,
война.
which starts with
когда ее доделают.
Neta. So we get to learn a little bit more about the Lotus, or as we learned, she was formerly known as Neta, a sentient mimic that was, ordered to destroy the Tenno back in the old war. But as I understand it, this is really the only early Lotus concept we have.
Yeah, we actually never did like a full concept exploration for the Lotus. It was really just a function of when Warframe first shipped as a co-op looter shooter that we just needed a voice to speak to the players, and we knew we wanted it to be Lotus, and Minky just had some ideas in his head and kind of solidified it around this transmission portrait, and it's been
Блин, у меня будет 2 ночи, получается.
Our beloved mother figure to the Tenno.
That's right.
Mom, of course. And in this quest, as we know, the Lotus sends us to check out what's happening on Uranus, where Tilragor is kind of like rummaging around where he shouldn't be. Lo and behold, Tilragor is looking at some old war wreckage, or rather an old war tomb. So we have a concept here of that specific, it might be a familiar looking figure in the depths here.
And speaking of, I honestly forgot that was the progression that we did, that we kind of dropped the seeds, we dropped the breadcrumbs for the stuff through that tile set.
It just so happens that, like you said, the breadcrumbs, Tilragor accidentally ends up waking Hunhao, who we see, who is Neta's father, and he's just a little upset that Neta has not fulfilled her orders of destroying the Tenno. And that's where we move into the second dream, which we see Hunhao here looming over Stalker in the intro cinematic. And I guess a point to bring up here about the second dream is that this was launched in 2015,
Это из квеста, да,
and
я
it was our
понял.
first ever cinematic
Старой
quest.
войны cinematic.
So a pretty big project, I imagine, at the time.
Yeah, this is still probably one of my favorite memories, working on Warframe, because it was right at that cusp where we were nervous to do this. The game kind of was picking up steam and finding enough of an audience where players were getting genuinely interested in the world and the lore. And we thought we were taking a really big risk. We're like, I don't know, is this what people come to this game for? Let's try and build on the lore. And I still remember the kind of the reaction we got to it and the connections that were formed in the game were still probably one of the most rewarding feedback, like senses of professional feedback we've had from the players.
I mean, Kaz, you were a player, you were a Tenno before you ended up working with us on the DE team. So you were actually, as I understand it, you played through the second dream as a player, right? So you got to kind of live out those moments and those like reactions that we had. And we'll get through the couple more slides here where we have those big reveal moments that happen. But how was that for you, kind of like experiencing that as a player?
Yeah, so whenever I play quests for Warframe, I always have my headset on, my room is dark, my door is closed, there's no interruptions, I play it at night, everything is set up to enjoy it, because there's so much to enjoy in all of these things, and especially with the second dream. I was crying through most of it, as probably most people do, but I also had that bug where the Warframe is carrying the operator like a gun.
Heartbreaking.
I remember just like, I was in an emotional moment, but then I just had to just bust out laughing, and it was the weirdest feeling.
But in hindsight, it's part of Warframe's charm, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. The TennoGen program was started around this time, and right after the quest and my first item was added to the game, it was just the most surreal feeling to have the helmet on a Warframe, walk up to my operator, and present my art to myself in another video game.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's very cool.
But I do want to talk about this, Keith. So in the intro cinematic to the second dream, we do see Hun Hao. He's talking to Stalker. But how did Hun Hao become Hun Hao? Did it start with this fungi, organic, sentient that I'm seeing here?
There was this whole sort of set of different sentients that I was kind of initially exploring, which are very different from where we went. And a lot of their technology and their ships and their architecture was using this kind of language. And then I started to kind of mix them a little bit. And then I think the technology of them took over, kind of permeated everything else, a bit like a fungus, I guess. And then it kind of evolved from there. So I can't even remember what year this was. This was way back before the sentience existed.
This was definitely even before Second Dream. And I think, like, I know like you and Minky, Mike Brennan, this is just one of a batch. I think there was there's a whole pretty huge evolution of exploration that went into these guys, and I think even this was kind of pretty close to where Hun Hao settled, like when it was starting to feel good with the shape and the proportions.
Yeah, that's kind of, you can kind of see that shape familiarity
Это
in
новый
what
чип и
ultimately
чел?
ended up being Hun Hao and
Hun
kind
Hao
of the
модель. Нет,
sentient
это модель
form
Hun
that we
Hao.
know now.
Таком я
And then
не
I guess
видел.
we kind of see that also translated in the weaponry.
Это
So
осколок
the war being a very
войны,
important
война
key
и
weapon in the second dream, it is the melee weapon
незаряженный
that
меч я не
Hun Hao
понял.
gives
Типа
to
вот
Stalker.
это я
He
понял.
puts him with
Война,
it. He
это
kind of
осколок
like
война, это я
manifests
не знаю.
himself in it to give him orders to
Без
essentially
энергии,
destroy the
получается.
Tenno, do his bidding, find the womb in the sky, as he likes to call it.
Сломанного.
But yeah, this became a very popular melee weapon. Was it the first of its kind in this sentient style and very large broadsword?
I'm pretty sure it was, yeah. And I think the cool thing about it was it was the emotional connection to the quest, and it was a really cool opportunity to kind of put a weapon as a quest reward that you kind of had the story-based experience with. Like the full version was the one that that the Stalker was given for his personal weapon and as a conduit for Hun Hao to speak to him. And then the Broken War was, again, kind of a result of what happens at the climax of the second dream.
And Kaz, as a player at the time, were you stoked to get yourself this big sentient weapon? Because I know a lot of players were like, oh my god, this is crazy. We love big swords in Warframe, so this hit the mark for a lot of people.
Yeah, and all the glowies on it too.
Love our glowies, love
And
our
the
energies.
little, at the hilt, the little tail, the little shrimp tail. That's like kind of like a Minky. He really liked to kind of give the sentience that little organic flair at the end. A lot of
Ого,
you'll
нифига себе,
notice
чел
the
подключился.
little curly
Свой
tail
написание.
on them.
Isn't it kind of like a tongue or something?
Yeah,
Like there's
yeah.
a whole face on the bottom. You've got the two eyes and the curly tongue there.
And then, as I mentioned, Hunhao recruits Stalker to find where the Tenno are, and as we go through the quests ourselves, we find where they are. They're in these reservoirs on Lua. Here we have one
сказали про
out of
второй
three
сон,
big
потому что будет спойлер
reveals that
показывать, а не
happen in
спойлер.
this quest. There's lots of things that happen in this quest, and one of them being the operator exiting the reservoir pod at this moment. So
yeah, this was I remember this was my favorite parts to work on the quest. And when we were kind of thinking about these pods, we wanted to call back to have that Orokin feel to it, and we really wanted the inspiration of how they come out and kind of blossom like a flower to show the connection to the lotus.
Как
and what her role was
цветок,
with them. So,
как цветок открывается эта
I think this is really successful in how this kind of manifested in the scene.
yeah, there is that moment of kind of like you're scratching your head a bit, wondering.
Да, вот видишь, как все
what
взаимосвязано,
creature
оказывается.
just
Не зря
suddenly
говоришь, что типа
dropped out of these pods.
должно
Very
быть.
elegant reveal, then we just spilled them onto the floor.
Пройдет второй
Here you go.
Yeah.
This you waited years for
Иначе
this
будут
reveal.
спойлеры.
Here's the operators, and then we have our second big reveal, which ended up being you actually sing the Lotus. So this occurs, of course, near the end of, or at the end rather, of the quest, and the Lotus scoops us up, and she proceeds to take us to her transference chair. So we see some concept here of what her full suit actually was supposed, or what we were, I guess what we were planning on what her suit was going to look like.
No, this came about because we needed to show her. Like we needed to have her in the scene, and
Right.
she only existed as a portrait. So that's where Minky kind of did this was the first time Minky did the full exploration of what this form of the Lotus would be.
And if I'm not mistaken, and I might be, but the dress form on the left hand side there, was that kind of like a paint over for a cosplayer? I think there was like a cosplay request,
I think you're right. Yeah.
I don't actually think we had art of the
Да
Lotus.
нет,
Because
вообще
I know,
проблема
like
с
you said, it
микрофоном
was just
немножко.
transmission of just what we saw at the beginning of the panel,
That's
just her
funny.
face.
Oh my god, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we couldn't put it into game because it was a bit too restrictive for for the walk cycle at the time. So
Right.
Yeah.
She's too much fabric in
Yeah.
the way of walking. You don't want to trip while you're holding an operator. It's just they've been
no,
through
it's
enough
important.
already.
Exactly. It's been dumped on the floor a few times.
And as I mentioned, you know, the Lotus, she walks, she drops us off in our transference chair. But this room in particular is now a very important room for our players. It's where the operators reside. It's where you work on your focus schools, and
This room, there was years where you couldn't access it as well for some
right. Yeah, the
players.
doors were locked,
Yeah.
and everyone was wondering what's behind the doors, and it was a transference room.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny how we put our character creation, funny in hindsight, 100 hours into the game back then. We've made it quicker now. But weirdly, it's kind of like this recipe that I don't think you could redo it again. We got lucky that, we had this kind of dedicated player base who were already established and just kind of yearning for this kind of lore expansion. That it just worked out, like that it kind of worked out that it was this really long tutorial, and you finally got the reveal, and then we had to create this room to function to that relationship of what the operator is as a pilot and this kind of symbiotic relationship they have with the Warframe.
So the Zeramin suit mask gets pulled away, and you get to start customizing your operator. So here's some what I assume are very early works of the operator.
It's hilarious. I remember this. It's really funny that I remember when Steve and I were talking to Minky about the idea of the second dream and the reveal. He was skeptical. He was very skeptical about putting kids in the game, and he's like, I don't know, and he's like, fine, I'll give it he was totally game to try it out, and he convinced us of his skepticism by making a really cool concept design for the kids.
Они показывают, что типа картинки, как они делали.
He solidified it for us when he
Квест,
did this.
получается.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where what was kind of nice about the operators in the Warframe is you sort of start almost as your adult self, and then you almost introduce yourself as a youth. So it's kind of interesting, depending on where you are in your life, which you might identify with more or less. And yet it's kind of part of a cohesive link. So it's kind of nice to have that simultaneously existing in the same space and time and within the game world.
And Lotus at the end of the second dream says, and I quote, and I can't quote it properly, Reb, I'm sorry, I can't do the Lotus voice, but she says, now we fight on two fronts, my child, the war without and the war within. So we hop into this next quest where, you know, now that the operators had been revealed in the second dream, we go down a little bit of this rabbit hole of their origins, their backstories, and what makes the Tenno in this quest. Teshin kind of becomes this double agent in this story. Not by choice, mind you, but here he is in all of his robed, large hat glory.
So he kind of existed in that realm, and he had a bit of like a backstory for them. The Dax were soldiers for the Orokin, and it was really good when we were kind of going into the new the war within. You know, for him to be a bit of a conflicting voice to what the Lotus represented to the kids. You know, he wanted to kind of cast some doubt on the past and kind of what the operator's role, and we used him to explore the kind of theme around the war within was growth for the operators.
He has a bit of a father figure place too, like Lotus's mother, and then he's a bit of the kind of slightly absent father. Kind of
he shows up again.
But actually, Kaz, I'm curious. We kind of like mentioned that the father figure a little bit here. Were you, as a player, like when you came into this, were you like, "Oh, Teshin, what happened, man? What's going on?" Like, was there a little bit of a disappointment moment in Teshin?
I just remember being so impressed with his voice. I just wanted him to keep talking.
You're like, I don't care what you have to say, if it's going to be disappointing or not, just keep talking.
Yeah. I do remember like liking that he was casting doubt on everything though, because as a player I was seeing the cracks starting to form in the Lotus's story, and all of that lead up to it kind of prepared me to like want to see something that maybe goes against what Lotus has been doing the whole time.
Yeah, that was definitely a community sentiment. I think this was definitely the quest that kind of like created a little bit of a rift there with our personal relationship with the Lotus. So we do enter this mountain pass where this art is just absolutely gorgeous.
It really comes alive in game too. Like it has so much vitality. So it's always tricky to carry through the vitality from the artwork into the final product, but this one it's almost like it got instilled with it and it increased once it got finished.
Yeah, they did a great job implementing it in game, and I think this was probably one of the first. This is where we were really starting to kind of build on the seeds of the Orokin influence to the past. And it worked out really well with that little temple that you're pushed into.
But from here, we attempt to use our operator powers on this Iatan, and it doesn't work out so well. Actually, we end up falling into a lovely pile of bones at the bottom of this pit, where we are met with the Golden Maw, or more popularly known in the community as the Ravenous Maw. Why does it have to be ravenous? Yeah, why does it have to be ravenous?
Yeah, so this was a function of we wanted to, like, in the context of the quest, this was to kind of put the player through some trials so they could kind of snap some memories back and trigger their powers. And I remember when Minky was exploring these, you notice the four-legged kind of look. A lot of Warframe, because the content moves so fast, we like to share skeleton structures in the animation where we can. So those kind of like quadruped looking ones were him taking, an existing skeleton and kind of seeing how far he could push it. And there's really great stuff, but ultimately I think with the timeline we had, the kind of snake worm version that we ended up with was going to be a bit more achievable in the time we had, like animation and AI behavior.
And I know, Jeff, you mentioned this, the snapping back of memories, which is as we're moving through these trials and we're getting our powers back, we have these snapshots of our time on the Zeramin 10-0 ship and some very dramatic moments of this kind of flashbacks of the incident. And here we actually have a concept of the ship itself.
Yeah, so in that quest, we were using those moments to give the player some insight into what happened on the ship, to the origin of the Tenno and the powers they achieved or they attained from the void. And so at the time we were doing some explorations for the ship, you know, and this people who've been with us for a long time might even recognize the silhouette from prototypes we did in 2004 with Dark Sector. But yeah, the intention was that the ship was the colony ship, and yeah, it was just some explorations that we were like hoping to manifest, but you know, couldn't squeeze into the quest. I think in hindsight, it was probably more effective to leave it vague, you know, and just have that little kind of bit of insight in the context of the trauma that the operator was going through. So I think it worked out rather than like it being kind of suggested rather than like we literally showed you.
Right. And we kind of like we've peppered in the Zeramin here and there.
Mm-hmm.
We've shown it in the Rel web comic when the Chains of Harrow launched. We saw it in the Vitruvian, which we'll get to in the Sacrifice. So definitely just kind of seeing generally what the Zeramin has looked like, just to give players a little taste of it. But here we're actually seeing it in full color or full concept, which is really cool too.
This is some exploration of the event, you know, where it hits the void and things change on the Zeramin.
Yes. Yes, which we actually see in these next slides. So here we have a very small look at the inside of the Zeramin and the classroom. And there's so much to see in this one image, like lots of familiar faces, maybe some familiar objects. So I think I'm going to let people at home who are watching kind of dissect it for themselves and see what they find. Maybe there's some unfamiliar things that you see there, but and then disaster strikes. So
yeah, and if players have played Rel, if they played the Rel quest, they are kind of familiar with, you know, the state change that happens on the ship. And this was, again, a bit of an exploration of that.
And so here we are. We did our self-discovery in the War Within, and we find ourselves going back to the reservoirs on Lua, where we dropped out of our pods. And we hear some flashback discussions between Margulis and Ballas in the Apostasy prologue. So we also end up dropping down from the reservoirs into this enclave of sorts, which ultimately I believe is, I guess we could call it like the Lotus's chamber.
Yeah, and the cables were kind of meant to speak to her connections to all the different Tenno out there. She was kind of like the hub.
And then we got kind of like a little bit closer to what we actually see in the quest when her throne comes up, and we have this much more floral arrangement, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, and again, for the purposes of the cinematic, we wanted to have something that can work as a reveal device as well. So this would unfold and reveal the Lotus to you.
And reveal the Lotus. It happens. But not until we are just completely rudely interrupted by Ballas, who has the audacity to reach out his hand to the Lotus and walk out of our lives with her in hand, essentially. And he says, of course, I will not abandon you again, Margulis, before they do so. And this is kind of where we step into the sacrifice.
Орокин Баллас, меч, который до сих пор его подарок нам, который до сих пор не использовал.
This is your original concept of Ballas.
Yeah, we had to do this because I think we've shown this concept before.
Он еще говорил, что против
владеющих разумом хорошо пойдет. Like Ballas at the point had only been a voice in trailers that we had put out, and of course, voiceover in Second Dream.
Честно сказать.
And then when we wanted to reveal him, we reached out to Keith, you know, to kind of like help us come up with a physical manifestation for him. And it's funny, he kind of threw us for a loop, you know, because, and I think even some players called us out for it, because Steve had a small paragraph of existing lore describing the Orokin as perfectly balanced, you know, and then he gave us this beautiful take with this frightening arm that just seemed to suit. It was such a cool change and such a new idea for us, for Steve and I. You know, and it spoke to the kind of like evil quality, you know, to the Orokin.
The way I kind of synthesized it, I think, or I attempted to, in my own mind, is it was sort of the Orokin are so sort of elaborate and sophisticated and built up, they need this kind of offset built into their culture and their aesthetics. So it's sort of like the beauty mark. It's the spot on like the perfect kind of face and the kind of offset to the perfect body. So in a weird way, they have this principle of their aesthetics, and they like to play against it also as this sort of level of sophistication. The way kind of a beautiful object, you appreciate the way it's worn or cracked, that kind of thing. They almost like built that into themselves as their own unique expressions within this structure that they all share.
The long arm was supposed to be a callback to the ancients, the infested ancients, right? Or no?
I actually think that was just a weird coincidental convergence. I don't think I thought about that. And I've seen people say that maybe there's some connection there. So that's sort of one of those fun organic things that kind of develop where we may build off of that more. I don't know.
Yeah, I totally thought that as a fan. I thought it was supposed to be ancient.
And I mean, the long arm is excellent for Comey playing at long distances, which we see happen in the quest. So for a little bit of context, essentially what the War Within was for operators, the Sacrifice quest is essentially for Warframes. And in this quest, we're also just kind of wondering where the Lotus went. So where did Valis take the Lotus? And we speak to the creations of the Warframe specifically through these Vitruvian moments, which, as I understand it, was originally intended to be a device worn by Valis. I don't think we actually see it in the quest itself, but it's a pretty big storytelling device used throughout the quest.
Yeah, the intention was kind of like, how would Valis have his like little personal computer on him to keep his little diary of experiments? But yeah, the idea of the Vitruvian was, as you said, to give this quest was to give some insight into the Warframes, and we kind of confirmed again what the kind of base ingredient is for a Warframe, I guess.
And as much as Valis is a main character in the quest, Umbra,
Они обсуждают
the big Umbra reveal, Umbra obviously
контент, который уже прошел.
A Warframe that player has waited for a long time, and we introduced him into the Warframe world through the Sacrifice and his Skiajati, his right-hand sword or left-hand. I don't actually know which way he wields it, but we have right-hand sword.
Yeah, I think I remember Lucas telling me that he just wanted to see if he could get away with making a stick as a sword.
And he did it.
He did. He got away with it.
He got away with it.
Скияти, по-моему,
так
называется.
I love this sword design, actually.
Мой первый, этот катана, мой первый Warframe.
The black and gold aesthetic really spoke to
кроме этой катаны больше
our
не
edgy
было.
players.
Дальше Татсу уже.
This was a well-loved
Ручная катана.
addition with the Sacrifice. And the sword, like I said, it becomes important because, by the time that Umbra, we had gone through his memories, there is a connection that's made between Umbra and our operator. As we've shared these memories with Umbra, we want to seek out our revenge against Valis for what he had done to Umbra. And there's the scene at the end here where the Skiajati is used to do a little hack and slash to Valis.
Вот
and the Lotus returns.
Еще
раз.
But not quite the Lotus.
But not quite the Lotus. She looks a little different. In fact, she is quite Nata. So, Keith, what's going on here? What happened to her?
It's one of those things where we're slowly kind of revealing more of her true form, but then it's kind of called into question how far you've gone. And then, because we get this interesting where the beginning of the Lotus, when we first see her, her eyes are always covered. And I think this is the first time we ever see her eyes. But then at the same time, with that reveal, it's also revealing that the face itself is almost like a mask. So the way I was kind of designing it is this idea that her true sentient form is sort of wearing the human shapes like a carnival mask or like something in a masquerade. So she sort of, pulls it tighter and closer and expands it out depending upon the context and the mood and how she's relating to the player or the other people in the scene.
Interesting. So is she to be trusted?
and even there's still this question of who she is. It's sort of like once you reveal the mask, do you know what the next thing is? Because it's sort of part of her nature. She's this mimic. So is she also kind of fronting to the sentience? Because there's that friction there. So.
Right. So we have this moment where you know, we were already shocked to see the Lotus leave, and we're even more shocked to see her return as Nata in this moment. And this was a moment. This was definitely a moment.
And just to compliment everything Keith said, I think like I love this design so much because I think it's just so strong at kind of supporting the themes he was mentioning. And there is something I love about, you know, with the eyes, with the reveal of her eyes, there's something I kind of love the contrast of getting a bit more of her humanity when you see her as a sentient. It just played to that reveal. It made that reveal, I think, a lot more kind of like have a bit more emotional weight to it, you know, than if she was just, you know, a pure sentient, you know, kind of like Hunhao or anything like that.
I do remember, though, I saw the concept before I saw any work done on the model, and I wasn't sure how to feel about the concept, especially I saw it uncolored as well, so I was like,
288 человек смотрит.
In the game and all lit and part of a narrative and just the whole team really beautiful state. It just really blew me away. So it just goes to show, like, even the weirdest designs that Keith comes up with our team, we end up just all dogpiling on it and making it just beautiful. Like, everyone working together makes everything beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, seeing her in game was definitely shocking, but she has this very, like, she has the sentient style, but also it's very Lotus. It's very Nata.
It speaks to something that she still keeps the mask, if you know what I mean. Because she's never become fully sentient to anyone yet. So there's this sort of thing like, does that mean something? Is that an important gesture? Does it mean something about her, you know, deep down as well as her agency and her character, that she still wants to have that mask on?
Right. So we essentially just have all these questions going around in our heads. A lot happens at the end of the sacrifice. Lotus comes up and swoops up Ballas in his injured state, and she just blasts off into space, Team Rocket style, just see you later. And she says, you know, drifting, gaunt beyond the bleak star, mother, I am coming home. And we're like, whose mother? What is happening? Why is she gone again? Where is she taking Ballas? And a lot of those questions are partially answered in the Chimera prologue, which is part 1 of 3 of the new war chapters that you see in your codex. So we end up back on Lua, back to the reservoirs, back to the Lotus Chamber, and we enter the light where Ballas had initially taken Lotus away from us. And as we step into this sort of sentient chamber, we meet Ballas again, but he's looking a little different. Kind of looking a little bit more sentient than normal. So another one of your concepts, Keith, here.
This is sort of one of those ones where it's almost working the opposite way. This is where it's sort of an Orokin, but with the sentient elements being kind of pushed into him without any sympathy for what was originally there. So it's kind of very different from the way that mix that you have with Nata and the merging of the kind of human forms and the sentient forms. This is sort of the opposite direction of it. So he's really been kind of demeaned by it to some extent. And he used to be so proud that it creates this sort of this emotional connection there to him, even if you weren't that sympathetic to him up until this point.
Yeah, I think like you kind of really have like he has such a pathetic quality to him in this. That, but it was amazing because when we did the acting, when we did the cinematic for it, it was easy, like, you know, to kind of convey that emotional state of him because the design was so good. And I love the extra
нифига уже показывает.
added insult to injury with
Вот что с Балласом стало, так сказать, проклятие Орукин его.
Just such a good touch.
The sort of thinking behind it was the sentients were sort of like, oh, it doesn't really get in the way.
Они обсуждают очень вот это, что они сделали, так сказать, концепт-арты показывают. Ну ладно, красивый арт.
Yeah, and he kind of stumbles around in this.
Для нас это инфа, я-то думал, что новый квест будет показывать, так вот собираюсь. Не, ну это спойлер, конечно, был, хотя бы хоть пару фотографий показать.
It's been a long time and we've done a
Да
lot.
нет,
But
нет.
I think this is the first tease of being inside the mothership. You know, and yeah, you were kind of spying on Ballas until, you know, you kind of get some insight that he might have summoned you there. You know, and I think, you know, the question I think we're asking here, and you know, is Ballas a prisoner you know, is he not? You know, or maybe he's someone who's opportunistic and was a prisoner and is maybe having some plans of his own.
Well, we kind of wonder that question too, because he's building this weapon and he's kind of like circling around this chamber, and he ends up making the paracesis.
Can we just talk about how good that sheath is, though?
Oh, let's talk about it.
Like the sword sheath is so good. I think this whole panel to start really has just been leading up to this moment where we can show.
Just buttering me up. Man.
Show the sheath.
So, Lucas made the sword, and I made the sheath for it. I did the 3D version of it, obviously from Keith's concept art. But the players never get to use the sheath, so it never got released anywhere.
It was too good for the game. Was the problem? It was just it was too good. We couldn't fit it in.
If I had my way, the players would always just sort of unsheath it and just hurl the sheath off into the distance, and it would just come back when they need it.
Yeah, and when you equip it, you just.
Yeah, it was just an unfortunate thing of function. The sword was so big, we couldn't have the Warframes sheath it properly.
It is a big sword, and so appropriately named the Sentient Slayer. So I think, given the size and the name, it kind of, you know, lives in harmony. But we end this this first chapter, moving into the second chapter titled Era. And we enter the scene of an old war battle where we meet Era for the first time, who we learn is Nata's brother. And we have a concept of Era, two concepts of him, you know, the lanky lad and his little perched, you know, kind of throne seating.
Originally, this was sort of this idea of something in the mothership, these things called gargoyles, and they were kind of going to be features of potentially either her or her architecture, that kind of thing. And you were always kind of going to be unsure of which one might basically suddenly stretch down from its perch and come at you. And then I guess in the end, it was sort of like, well, I think that's actually a full-on character now.
Yeah,
sort of went from there.
Keith's problem was
nice.
There was so much
a lot of good weird movement.
Yeah, there was such great personality in the design when it came time for us to need an Era. You know, this just kind of seemed to fit the bill for what we wanted to portray with him. And the really cool thing about this concept is we were able to actually do the kind of folded state and have him animate in that one cinematic where he started up in his perch state and kind of fold out of it. The character team was really able to build it off this, and the animation team, it totally worked. We were able to pose him in this exact pose. Yeah, and it worked out great.
It's one of those tricky things where it kind of looks like a weird like mix and mashed up thing there, but I'm always careful not to give anyone too much hard work figuring it out. So I try to always make sure I design something where it can unfurl and move if I'm going to show it doing that.
Yeah, it worked out great.
And we do see, just as speaking of this unfurling in the cinematic, where we jump from that old war flashback where we seemingly see Era get destroyed by the Lotus and her gang of operators, but then we're jumped to the present where Era and Nata are having discussions around, you know, preparations around the war. And as we kind of zoom into this throne scene, you see him debark from his throne, from his little crouched froggy state. So but this is just some concept art of that scene, that moment, this kind of, I guess we would call it like a throne within the ship itself.
Yeah, exactly. And that was, as you said, that was a deliberate decision the Lotus made at the time, was to cast her a lot with the operators and help end the war. And now she's back home.
She's back home, back to Mother. And some more, just a kind of a pullback angle. When you originally jump into the present, you're kind of, sitting far back.
And this room is part of the tile set expansion. Like I know we've given the players a taste of the sentient tile set, but there is still much more to come, much very cool spaces to come.
And then we are at the third and final kind of, I guess you could say, prologue chapter of the new war. And we recently just titled it The Maker, and we enter this scene of just essentially what I guess is the mothership. Mm-hmm. And this was originally your concept, Keith, of this very large sentient ship.
This is the ones where you got so much room and space, you can just go absolutely monumental and just throw the view way back. So I had a lot of fun because there was a lot of other development kind of leading up to this, and I think as we sort of explored it, it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and I got happier about that. And this is one of the ones where and it sort of even has the potential there. You can see on the right with the kind of almost the weave work and the framing it's building up is that I even had plans of like, if we ever wanted to make it even bigger, guys, we can do that if you want.
Oh my goodness.
Well, it was great. There's
a floor plan there.
And the kind of like the pitch that we gave, that Steve and I gave to Keith, that she was heavily damaged in the war, and kind of left to die. And this is a state of her very long process of rebuilding herself. So the main core kind of body there is what's been kind of more fully rebuilt, and the membranes that are expanding again because the sentients are living creatures. That's her kind of rebuilding her larger form. So the true form of the mothership is even bigger than what we have here, and that's why I think a lot of the skybox art shows. I believe there was one of like of it consuming asteroids and kind of having this gravitational pull. We're just pulling resources into itself that's using to kind of produce and rebuild itself.
And I guess just as you guys were mentioning, as she's rebuilding, we have a concept essentially of this kind of like wasteland of space junk that's been pulled into this mouth, I guess you could call it in a way.
Well, I think, Keith, you kind of designed it like the mouth of a whale, right? And the way it kind of filters in the krill.
Yeah, it sort of had these almost baleen that would filter, so she could kind of select what detritus that she wanted to accept and filter out. She's still picky. She's not just putting up anything.
So we kind of cap off this third and final installment pre the new war. Again, we're back in the ship, and we're hearing just kind of these final conversations between Era and Nata, where Era tells Nata, finish the war. It's beginning, here we go. And this is where we leave off. The codex now says to be continued. If you've completed all the quests, if you've done all these chapters, there's this new addition on the bottom there that says to be continued. And well,
now they're trying, like, the players are like, oh, finally we're gonna see some new stuff.
Yeah, now we're getting to the new stuff. Now we're getting into the what's to come, because that kind of asterisk there of this to be continued has us wondering, well, what is there, what's on the other side? So we're gonna do a little sneak peek here of what is to come, without being too spoilery. So we're going to start with some new enemies that we'll see, starting with this guy.
So again, Keith has been helping out with New War exploration, and we've talked about it, that New War is the focus for this year, hopefully to the relief of players who've been very patient with us in that regard. Yeah, so we're going to be seeing some new, we have to be a little vague here, I apologize, but these guys do have a very specific function in the New War, and
yeah, I think one of the hints is this isn't how you'd normally see this.
Yeah,
it's doing something a little scary right now. Scary.
And then, who is this? Who might we have here?
He looks a little familiar. Yeah, so he's, of course, our boy is going to play a pretty big role in the war that's coming. And he's trying to get his groove back, I guess. He's kind of embraced to agree. I think he's living a bit of a deceit. I think I love how Keith is trying to work in Ballast, trying to get some of his symmetrical beauty back with the prosthetic leg. But yeah, Ballast is trying to embrace this new form he has and be a presence in the New War.
Sort of interesting, because in this case, it's sort of a character in the world, almost designing himself, because it's sort of him figuring out his new style and this new kind of costume and everything. So and that's going to run through a bunch of other stuff. So it's kind of fun, because I'm almost designing as though I'm Ballas inside the world.
We've entered Ballas's new groove, essentially, is what I'm hearing. And I feel like the levels of Ballas transformations that have happened are reaching like Dragon Ball Z levels.
Pretty good, yeah.
He's been through a lot of stages. And actually, I kind of want to point something interesting that I've noticed in both the previous enemy and with Ballas, we see this weapon. So the players would have probably put that together, but is this going to be something that players will receive, or?
Ideally, yes. Ideally, that's something we like to do. You know, when you see something in the quest, we try to find a way to make sure it's a reward. But specifically with the current function that this is going down, likely you would get a modified version.
And okay, this next concept, I don't have an introduction for other than WoW. And what am I looking at?
Yeah,
this is
so
amazing.
Cool.
So cool. It's so cool.
Yeah, the new war is going to introduce, again, like we've already seen a new enemy type, but I would say this is probably a bit more of a sub-boss. And this is tied to Era, and his role in the new war and the kind of troops he's building. And the body that you're seeing with the attachment on it is a repurposed Prime Warframe. So Era is getting his hands on some Warframes and modifying them to be some of his minions. And Keith had some pretty cool explorations here in the background that maybe he can expand on. Like, we'll see how far we get with those designs, but I still really love the thought insight into them.
Yeah, there's sort of a mechanical thing, both in the gameplay and the theme of it with those guys. They're reminiscent, hopefully, of something we're familiar with already, which are the Vomvalists. So these are kind of a tangential entity, similar to the Vomvalist, but with their own unique function, which relates to this character, this design. And they're potentially going to actually be kind of kept in a magazine hopper along the back tail there. So you can actually see there's 4 out right now, and there's four gaps already. So it's one of those things where you'll be able to visually sort of tell how many are left, how many do I have to worry about coming, that kind of thing.
So the Archons are basically just Vomvalist taxis.
Yeah, exactly. That's all they do. Yep.
Vomvalist taxis.
Yep.
Well, one of the interesting things about this I wrestled with was kind of the notes for this was there'd be a sort of a snake theme. And when I was addressing it, one of the things I absolutely love about the Warframe universe is just because we say snake, it's not like snakes like we're familiar to. Snakes are totally different now. So I'm trying to keep it as kind of otherworldly and whatever we might call a snake that far flung into the future.
Yeah. I'm excited to make weapons for it.
Yeah.
I was just about to ask you, Kaz, because I know you have an affinity and a love for like infested weapons, and this is definitely giving me like big sentient arm gun vibes that we showed last year.
Yeah, maybe.
We'll have to see. We'll have to see. So here is our first look at the next Warframe, and as I can kind of tell here, we're adding essentially to our very small roster of sentient Warframes, or sentient kind of like hybrid Warframes or styled Warframes. Of course,
yeah.
Revenant being the Eidolon sentient kind of energy-esque Warframe. So we've entered a new stage, I guess, of Warframe sentient style.
Yeah, and to be totally like upfront about it, like this was actually Keith is amazing at like every once in a while, every time like there's occasionally over the years he'll just say, hey, by the way, here's 20 Warframe ideas, and like you're just like, oh my god, and they're all amazing. And he had done a sentient hybrid a few years ago, and I remembered it because it just seemed really perfect for the theme of the new war, and especially with what we were just talking about with what Era's doing with Warframes. That as a reward, as a quest reward for a blueprint, it would fit the theme really well to execute on this Warframe. So there's probably going to be some adjustments we have to make in the 3D mesh for the skeleton, but yeah, I think it's really great to kind of tie this one in.
I always like the kind of hybrid Warframes too, because it's sort of like, should we really trust this one as much as the others? It's sort of a little bit iffy.
And I'm seeing a very interesting weapon being held, and I'm assuming this is going to be his signature weapon. As we release Warframes, they typically come with their signature weapon. So Kaz, are we going to be exploring a little bit more of this kind of like staff, I guess, style? Is this what we would consider that, a staff?
Maybe a scythe type weapon, but I'm thinking we're gonna need to do a few changes to make it work within the bounds of the game. It's just kind of like where it strikes and all that kind of stuff. I think we're gonna be making some changes to the head, especially.
Okay, so now we're getting into some cosmetics that we could look forward to, and what I guess we've been calling evolving armor or evolving sentient armor. I guess Kaz, you could speak more to this.
Yeah, so basically, as part of one of our quests, there's going to be a reward of this armor set, and as you complete a certain goal, you get rewarded with the different forms of it. So in a sense, it's evolving, but you will have each version of this in your arsenal by the time you're done with it. Yeah.
So kind of like a visual representation of your power in the game. And we're getting into some weaponry here, more sentient style. This is just incredible.
Yeah, Monash really blew it out of the park. This is one of his first, possibly his first concept pieces. There's basically 3 states to it, and one of them is just the initial state where it's like holstered. Then there's the quick draw kind of state where the bow is kind of smaller, but then when you're aiming, the tendrils kind of stretch taller and the whole thing kind of focuses down together so that you've got that visual representation of that aiming sort of thing going on.
And then we're moving on to a little deluxe segment here. So here we go. Here's a concept of the Volt, kind of, I guess, playing along on that sentient theme again, but a deluxe that we have planned for Volt by Nikita.
Yeah, he was talking about really wanting to have some like clouds and electricity, so you can see it running through the character's body. But it's also based on some mythological themes as well, and you can kind of feel that throughout the piece.
We're moving on to a deluxe skin for a Warframe that currently does not have a deluxe, and that is Protea. And
oh, you say it with the Reb accent.
Oh, do I?
Oh,
Protea?
The emphasis on the T.
Protea.
She's a tea drinker. I mean,
this is true. Reb likes her tea. And this is just, I mean, it's so ornate and it's gorgeous. This
is really lovely.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna take a bit of credit on this one too, because I'm pretty sure I poked Reb. I'm like, Reb, because I saw some concepts from this artist. I'm like, Reb, see if they'll do something. Yeah, and again, as usual, just really great process. They gave us really a lot of quick sketches and acted on the feedback really fast, and I think just came up with a really strong look for Protea.
And then again, we're showing one more deluxe from another community fan artist who we worked with before, and we actually showed last year when we were debuting Zaku. But Karu is back with a banger for Baruch, and Baruch being Karu's one of Karu's favorite Warframe, actually. So Karu actually approached us, I believe, and sent me an email and said, "Hey, I love Baruch, and I would love to take a shot at making a deluxe skin."
Oh, Baruch!
And, she had sent us kind of some ideas, and here we have it, the Baruch Deluxe.
Yeah, I'm really glad it got to work out that way. You know, like I'm super happy that, you know, if there's an artist who's inspired to make art for Warframe, and there's an opportunity for them to, and we have a good relationship with them, and there's an opportunity for them to work on their favorite Warframe as well. Yeah, I think it's fantastic, and it worked out perfect because we actually don't have a deluxe yet for Baruch. So.
And okay, here we go. We're at the end of the panel.
Is there another one?
Oh no, we're done with the deluxe skins.
Oh, okay.
We're not done with we're not done with our final reveal. for our art panel this year.
I already forgot what it is, Daniel.
Did you?
I totally did.
Did you?
This is gonna be seriously, yeah.
Jeff.
It's been a long year. It's been a long year.
Well,
it has been.
Yeah.
here's a little reminder. Nidus.
Nidus
yeah,
Prime,
oh my
да.
god. So good. I'm so happy I forgot.
I forgot too.
Everyone forgot.
This is so cool too, because it's we kind of went full like the retrospective. It was so cool. We started with Minky, with Mike Brennan, who helped us start Warframe, and now he's back. He's back doing Nidus Deluxe, or sorry, Nidus Prime rather, for us. Yeah, I poked him. I was just kind of catching up with him, seeing how he's doing, and kind of tossed out a line to see if he would bite. And he said, "Hey, has anyone done Nidus Prime yet, or have they started it yet?" And I was like, "Oh my god, no!"
And I do think, if I'm not wrong, Minky was the original design, like concept artist and design artist for Nidus, right?
Absolutely,
so his base form. So this is a lovely full circle moment with some key artists that we've had on the team, and it's really nice to see it kind of all come together again.
Yeah, and I know I've seen players speculate about Nidus Prime coming up, and they've asked about how the lore works, and it's pretty cool. This isn't official by any means, but Minky even asked those questions himself. Like just the thought process behind the design. He's like, perhaps this form of Nidus was able to infest Orokin Gold himself. There is some other explorations going on that the writers are kind of teasing out as well. So we'll see. We are going to work out some lore that has this make sense. But yeah, as you can see, we have the concept for the base form and the fully stacked, and I think he has a concept, now that I'm remembering everything, I think he has a concept here for the stages as well that we can see.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. So this is kind of the idea he pitched for how the stack could work and progress.
Значит, он будет у него форма заражения, типа. Он раз делает так.
So you can kind of see the shape language coming into work. And the one thing too is, if you can't see it here in the image, but when you rotate around it, you get this really amazing sense of depth. There's just these really incredible layers he has going on with the infested bits, with the gold bits kind of working their way through it.
It's phenomenal as a Nidus main next to Saren. Of course, I still love you, Saren. But I'm ecstatic about this, and I have to ask the question for our Nidus players out there, because it's very important, and also for Megan, because she has an affinity towards these little guys. But primed
she better
maggots.
Respect the fashion on, she better treat them right. I don't want the hot pink and neon green. The poor Nidus, he doesn't deserve that. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I mean, we might see some white, pink, blue, and lime green maggots running around, which we are priming. We are priming the maggots, as I understand, so they'll have a whole new look too.
Yeah. So so the fun kind of playing the inside baseball playing with Warframe is that he's designed the maggots around Excalibur Prime. So it's a really great callback to the original Prime. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Incredible. Also, we are just showing the helmet model here. Definitely tune in to Tenno Live at the end of our TennoCon day to see the full reveal of Nidus Prime.
My very last project when I was working off-site contract was the Hema and the Hirudo. So both of his signature weapons.
That's right. I remember that. That's right. That's crazy. That's cool.
And speaking of weapons, because of course with our Prime Access, we have the weapons that typically was originally released with the Warframe, which, like Kaz, as you mentioned, was the Hema and the Harudu. But given the infested nature of the weapons, are we planning on doing something different, or curious what we have in store for weaponry that we could see with Nidus Prime?
Yeah, so we're not going to be doing the infested stuff, but instead we're going to be going kind of back to our roots and priming some really old weapons. So I'm sure there's going to be some lore reasons for that.
To be determined, but you'll have to stick around to see Nidus Prime actually release. And Keith, I don't know if you had any Thomas about the Nidus Prime situation we got going on here, but
it's always fun to see infested stuff come back. It's like you get to work back into another form and kind of give it a good disease. So, especially these days, I guess it's fun to play with that kind of theme.
Yeah, so, it's therapy. It's very therapeutic.
Yeah, that's how we get through it. Yeah.
And here we find ourselves at the end of this year's Art of Warframe panel, and we've gone through a lot. We've been through pretty much Warframe's entire quest line.
Thanks for the trip down memory lane, Danielle.
Thank you guys for making me be able to go down this trip down memory lane and actually get to like experience the story. As a Warframe player myself, you know, these moments were really special, and as the quest progressed, we got to learn more and more about who we are, who the Warframes are, about these really key characters in the story. So I'm very excited to see what this next chapter holds for us in the new war. And thank you guys for joining me. It's again, last year we did this. It's just such a pleasure to have you guys on to talk about this stuff. It's so fascinating to hear the works behind the art and making these things come to life. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for organizing it and getting us all together and chatting about it. And of course, thank you to the players for watching and supporting us as usual. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, hopefully they are excited about new war stuff, because we're very excited about the stuff going into it.
Yes.
So.
Oh, yes.
Very excited.
Quick big thanks to the whole Warframe team. Love what we're making and love working with everyone. And thanks to the players too. And I'm really glad you enjoyed the game and all the work.
I second that.
I third that.
Alrighty, guys. Well, thank you again for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the rest of TennoCon. We will see you next year, I guess. This is going to happen next year.
Well, maybe a little later on for today for me, I guess, right? Today? Then the day we do this
you'll see Jeff at some point later today. But thanks for watching, guys. Enjoy, like I said, the rest of TennoCon, and let's go on to the next segment.
Thanks so much.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Make sure your Twitch account is linked to your Warframe account so you can receive Twitch drops while watching TennoCon 2021. To link your Twitch account to your Warframe account, go to warframe.com/user and click the sync link to link. Just make sure you're logged into the Warframe account that you want to receive the drops on. This year, for watching throughout the day, you can get a Grineer Gunblade weapon. During Tenno Live, watch for a free Loki Prime. Enjoy TennoCon 2021.
Welcome, friends. Buy my merch while it's hot. I'm desperate to sell all this stuff today. For no particular reason. Don't you know there's a sale going on? And that it's incredible?
The Nintendo Switch clan we're about to tour has been part of Warframe since we first launched on the platform. Let's take a look at how Clockworks has maintained a theme in their dojo even as they've grown over the years. This clan's use of Oricon decorations throughout the entire dojo maintains